All right.
What is this? I guess you can't protect your tweets and have
And yeah,
spaces.
yeah. Because I was like, all right. So now that the reconnaissance phase is over, right? And people are just like jumping in with, you know what I mean? Like we didn't go looking for anything this morning. Came to us. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So did that Dave guy reached out to me. So that was I don't know.
Yeah.
I
Right. So
reached out to him to talk about his fitness workouts, and then he started talking to me about this whole platform and everything he's trying to build. And I was like, oh,
nice.
that's interesting. What's stopping
Well,
you? And he's like, we just don't have anyone to do tech. And I was like,
well, here is the beautiful part. You see that video that I just created for fun because of Matt Burgess's story about, having the wrong data model and they ran out of money?
you talking about the resumes are dead?
No, no, the German thing.
Oh yeah, I think that's hilarious.
That's from Matt's story about what happens if you don't do the UX properly.
I thought you found that online because it's
No,
so much
I
like all the startup stories that I hear.
I created that from Matt telling me a story, dude. That whole thing is Matt's
That's
story.
so funny.
Yeah.
That's
It's
why I was
it's
just.
it's because of fucking Dan.
That's
Because
why
Dan
I.
did the first few videos, right?
Yeah, that's why I tagged a bunch of startup founders who are in UX UI research and like
Nice. They're gonna
other
love that
stuff.
shit. Yeah, that's the value. You have sales and operations, user experience, and developers. Yeah, oil and water sometimes.
Definitely, man.
But it was because of Dan's fucking what
Uh,
3 or 4 videos.
wait, what are you talking about? What are you
Think
saying?
about it.
I don't
Think
even know
about
what's
it.
going on, man. I,
Right?
to give you an example, I've been in a hallway firefight for the last 17 hours. So
Wow.
what is going on your side?
Okay. So what
What
happened?
hallway firefight are
Yeah.
you in?
Uh, how do I start? My partner's got a $500,000 in the bank, and he's freaking out about the company in terms of like how it's operationally working. And there's a lot of things, man. He feels like the company is going to end, and it's hard to unpack. Zach, I'll give you a call Sunday, and I'll give you the whole spiel because I appreciate you giving me
Yeah,
you reaching out.
yeah.
So
Take
it's
a
just,
take an
yeah,
hour. We can unpack it.
yeah. Same thing with you, Michael. It's one of these things where
Yeah.
it's hard to. Well, I'll give you what the action items are, and then you can backtrace from that because it's easier to
Courses of
do.
action. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Diversions.
All I need are the potential end states, and then
Yeah.
I can
And we'll
regress
fucking
Koa state
swarm
after
this
that.
shit.
I love that. I love that, Zach, because you're kind of like, well, no, don't explain. Just tell me who you want to die in the field. All
Yeah.
right, that's
All
a,
More
you
or less.
tell me what's happening at the end, and I will be able to work backwards from there.
Your Honor, we were
yeah,
joking. Your Honor, we were joking.
yeah. But basically, I was thinking my brother of this too. I'm like, I got to get a facilitator to moderate between me and my partner. And then I need to do a full triage on basically what's the last 2 years have been like from clients, anchors to, based on past receipt history, right? Month and blah, blah, blah. Where's the money at? Where's it going? And then I got to do a full breakdown of all operational resources in the company that are known and mostly not known. There's a shit ton of things that are not known. And then I need to expose the new plan, which is this broader big kitty. Basically, it's the brand of Dan across multiple collaborators, and on that list of collaborators is with the first company, which is the one we started, right? That's Software One, Big Kitty Labs, right? And then underneath, well, next to that is Get Your Rock. That's my media company I'm working on now. I just got a podcast, just dropped $6,000 on a podcast studio. It's getting built, kind of set up and everything. And then the third sort of thing is Syndicate. I'm talking to people about the Syndicate. I talk about it as the decentralized new LinkedIn, with a compass of good stuff, whatever. But Get Your Rock and Get Your Rock and Syndicate aren't those aren't the things I need to fix. The thing I gotta fix is Big Kitty, and part of that is my partner is a control freak, and he wants people to bring it home. We get a lead from XYZ person. He wants someone to take it all, close it without, that's what he says at least. I don't know if I really believe that because I see him as a micromanager across everything, right? He's on every project, on every meeting. I just know it's not operationally efficient. I don't want to come down on him. I want, he told me today, he's like, Dan, you benefit from this black box I've made for you. And you did. He made a black box in the beginning. We understood that. But then, like he's chasing payroll. I think there's like a big part of me is like, God, the more I chase money, the more I don't get it. You know what I mean? The more I chase, like
Short money can be very expensive in the long run.
yeah,
Yes, I know
yeah.
that. Believe me. Oh my God.
And he gives, I just the lecture of, Dan, you got to grow up and do a business, and I'm like, actually, no, I'm adhering to your physics. You know what I mean? I'm sort of stuck with his physics, and I'm removing them. I mean, I'm at the point where I'm okay with probably walking away from it all. That comfortableness thing, and the thing is, I could always take the exit, right? I could always go work for another firm in town, right? That's or take a job at OSU and just do that innovation piece again. But I want to do my thought leadership piece. That's what I'm really good at. That's what I'm rolling into. So in a lot of ways, I kind of want to get Big Kitty assessed. He thinks the company is going to die in 2 months, which is not true. He's thinking that because he's the only guy who's in charge of the close and all this shit. And that's because he doesn't trust anyone else. And, he tells me that, this guy on this team isn't good enough to do that. Well, of course he's not. That's a kid that you hired. Where's the middle management group? Why aren't the middle management groups doing anything? And that's because basically I haven't gone in there being an asshole yet. So, and part of me wants to be an asshole, but no, I need to get a facilitator in. I want the company triaged. I either want it flipped or I want it set on fire in the most glorious way possible. You know what I mean? I'm kind of like, that's where I am right now on that. And it's, I'm running into it right now. Anthony's actually doing pretty good. But he came in, put in about 20 hours, and already he sees the pattern. He's like, Dan, I see a pattern here. I know exactly what pattern. You've seen the same pattern that sent me to the bottle and sent me to really wanting to like let's find new ways to do masochistic pain on yourself. You know what I mean? So
sounds like someone doesn't understand how to kind of initiate decentralized command.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, no decentralized and
our commander walks in and says, here are the ways I'm going to evaluate the courses of action moving forward. Here are my commander's critical information reports. So if we lose an X number of tanks, we have to tell him immediately. And here are my friendly information reports. Hey, this unit is at this point. And then he goes back into his tent and goes to sleep. And then he comes back in and he goes, what are the COAs you have for me? And we brief him all of our COAs. And he goes, change that second one. I want the unit to go here because of this tactical strategic reason. And we go, okay, that makes sense, sir. We go and we redo it. And he goes back to his tent. And he comes back and we've worked all night and come up with the thing. And he goes, all right, now I'll be in here. Okay, now execute. And then he stands over us while we execute. And we're just telling everyone. And then he goes, decision point. And they're like, yes, sir, decision point. Here's where the forces are arrayed. And he goes, go that route. Okay, Roger, sir, go. But he allows the experts to be experts and to influence the decisions.
Yeah, and he embraces. For me, I like to get my team to fail as fast as possible. I mean, let's do that. How'd that feel? It sucked. Great. Try it again. He won't do some, but that's not really the main thing we really need is we need another equal partner player that can really do sales. And because, he's been mostly DevOps and sales, but he likes to sell, but he likes to, he runs the puck himself. So it's one of these things where it's like, we got to find another person who can do the work. So like, for example,
you can't choose to run the puck yourself and then say, oh, all of you people aren't carrying your weight. I'm the only one that's doing anything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly what's happening.
Hey, give me the ball, coach. Why isn't anyone else doing anything?
yeah. And I think it's because he just doesn't, have the confidence. And so it's not just confidence. It's like it's too easy for me to say that because I'll be honest. I checked out. I did. I moved off. Everything I wanted to do in marketing and stuff that I was a partner in a company. I felt like I was entitled to do some of that shit. I couldn't, right? So then I was like, fuck it. Like, I'm going to go learn. I got to go after the trend where it's going. I don't give a fuck if he's not going to be there. And here's the deal. The deal right now is I can go in the bank and sell them probably great work. But who can do the work on my side, right? In the company. I worry about, selling a $300 or $300,000 job. And then, on the team, they're going to try to figure out how to do it for $5,000. That's not how that works, man. You know what I'm saying? It's like they're almost too thrifty. And again, that's not the hard. There are systemic issues. Like right
The market
now,
has also changed, though, eh? Like,
completely
you know
changed.
what I mean?
Completely
Like,
changed.
we went from bull to
Completely.
bear, and that
Yes.
affects more
Yes.
than crypto.
Yes. Absolutely. And that's why I'm telling you, you gotta stay at pace and stuff. But so one problem is sales. We need salespeople that Dan can toss a warm lead, and a Dan lead is a damn good fucking lead. That is a lead that we've already got in. I mean, most Dan leads, the client is there because he came to Dan, right? Or he or she came to Dan, because that's how those leads work typically. And that needs to be handed off to Anthony. That's what I'm trying to give to Anthony. And then I want Anthony to focus on the close, and I'll work with him on that close. And don't even involve my partner yet. You only involve with my partner when it's landed, it's done, and here's the progression of shit to do. You still have stuff to fix on that side of the company. I mean,
I'm,
mostly I just, I have lots of little questions. How much money do we actually make? But he makes up a lot of stuff. Like, every person we get, we should get a, 10x on them. If we can't get a 10x, we're not a successful company. I'm like, you're making up shit to make you feel like, you
yeah,
know
what was
enough.
that?
You know what I mean?
That sounds like YouTube University talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always sort of like, you know, it's funny. He's like, Dan, when we started this, I thought the whole idea here was that we could make a whole lot of money and retire. And I'm like, if you thought starting a company, a startup, was a way to retire rich, I mean, like, what self-help book were you reading? I mean, I don't know. I just think that's funny. He's again, that's part of the big dick energy that's always present,
Well,
which,
the
or wanting. I
we're
mean, he's always
we're
got dick envy. That's it.
we're in a cutover point, though, right? Like every time I turn on LinkedIn and I see one of your posts, I'm like, oh fuck. Right? Every morning I have this oh fuck moment where it's like, hey, look how we can have multiple realities in the same room because we'll just
Yeah.
have stargates on either side that we can look through when we want. What?
Yeah.
And the guy is like so free with his information and be like, and by the way, this is how we do it. Right?
Yeah.
It used to be the fact that people would be like, look at this thing. I can't tell you. Now it's like, look at this thing. Here's the
Yeah.
GitHub. Here's how to fork
Yeah.
it. Follow my YouTube channel for the tutorial. And you're like, what?
Yeah. I mean, definitely that's, the stuff is all changing. I'm just kind of at the point where, the company needs to be triaged. It needs to be, and look, if someone wants to buy it, it's a great flip because it's an execution arm for me. But here's the thing. It's like, I could, there's a part of me that
Well,
thinks
let
it's,
me ask you this, though. If someone wanted to buy it,
yeah.
like Digame, tell me.
Yeah. Number?
Well,
Well,
no,
I don't know.
not even number, but like, what do you think the potential is?
I think
Does
it's
that make sense?
extremely,
But
yeah, I
even
think,
if 90% of the let's say after takeovers, all the leadership leaves in about 9 months, or as soon as they possibly humanly can, right? That's usually what
yeah,
happens. That's
yeah.
okay, right? And
That's, the thing is, it's not really worth anything. And I mean, everyone says that, like Big Kitty without Dan in it, that it's just a software dev farm, and it's like, what? Okay, so you have a couple accounts, maybe worth 600 grand, if that. You know what I mean? If you
how
don't,
many developers are there?
the thing with developers is that they're kind of decentralized. They're meaning that you got a team in India.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, you got a team in India of 40, and those are your people.
yeah.
Uh, uh,
And
but
then
there's like,
Belarus.
yeah, you got a guy, all these, but everyone will be fine. There's a part of me that's like, I want to sit them down and go, look, all right, here's the year we're in. You still can make money. I can still make money, but you got to rethink your whole reality on doing stuff. You know what I mean? And here's the thing: it's like he thinks he's like, well, Dan, what's this company just dies? I'm like, well, I mean, you can think it die, it won't die. Why? And because someone will still give me a job, right? I never have a problem getting a fucking job. Sometimes the jobs need to get closed. I get that, but I never have problems getting like the fucking job because I'm fucking running the space. You know what I'm saying? No one's out there. Got a bunch of fucking executives today all talking about OCIO. You know, not sorry, they were talking about CIO event downtown. That's basically $600 for a seat, where you gotta have two guys on the stage who haven't done any innovation in 20 years tell you about the metaverse and how it's going to be colorful. You know what I mean? What a waste of fucking time. I'm not going to do that. And so he's like, he's just, he's chasing the wrong thing. And Big Kitty's at the point where, you know, like it's just not going to die. I know it's not going to die because I'm not going to die. You know what I'm saying? And I'm Big Kitty. So just enough said. And so but I do at this point I'm kind of bringing in. I'm going to bring in a facilitator, bring in some analyst people. And I'm going to say, guys, here's a wonderful opportunity. Fix this company, and ask for your percentage, and then as I go and build all these dreams and stuff, you monetize me. You know what I mean? I'm a hell of a deal right now if you think about it. Go in and fix Kitty, and then okay, I want to find the coolest guy in the state of Ohio that knows about tech and startups. Because there's only one name. It's me. All right. So that's a hell of a funnel. You know what I mean? I want him to think like that. But Zach, go ahead, man.
What can I'm just trying
Yeah.
to. I know you said DevOps
Yeah.
and sales, but
Yeah.
what is your co-founder's like
Main
role in
Yeah.
what you actually like? What's his background in what you guys actually do at Big Kitty?
Yeah. So his background, he worked at Chase for about 16 years, and he worked in the API middleware division. So he's in charge of transactional things across all transactions across Chase, right? So massive
Like
bank all trade.
like
Yeah.
worked there in
Yeah.
leadership or worked there
No,
as like ground
probably
floor develop?
no, he's probably middle layer management, probably pulling in 150 a year, doing no, maybe not that much, but maybe it's somewhere between 90 to 120,000 a year. And he did that. Yeah, he went over from India. He started as a developer. He used to code. He worked up his way. He did Java this, Java that, and then he got pulled into this. Chase has 7,000 of these guys. You know what I mean? They're all part of different parts of cogs of the machine. So he's a computer guy. He's tech. Can do tech. And so
Yeah, but it sounds like
yeah.
he's been out of tech for a while.
No,
Like,
no.
no.
Don't say that. No. So then, what is Big Kitty? So Big Kitty started in 2009 when I decided to start a company, or what I call it, more or less, just a fucking experiment, right? So, and it was a fuck you to the space. Everybody I worked on before that, told me I needed 450 grand to make something, or I had to do X to do something, or I needed to find an MBA for something, or I had to pay 20 grand for a fucking operating agreement. Yeah, stupid shit like that. That was going wild. And I was just like, no, I'll just go figure out how to outsource shit overseas. And I started making things in a Panera every fucking weekend. And I talked to people, and people started going to my, I talk up startup weekend, and people were like, get Dan to talk. I was the opening act every startup weekend. I did the talk that, was a 10-minute pump you up speech. Welcome to startup weekend. Who's ready to fail this weekend? Huh? Let's get my hands in the air. Oh, you all going to succeed? I don't think so. There's a bunch of losers here. Who's going to surface to the top? I would do that. And then I would tell them the rules. All right, here's the rules of the weekend. The weekend, you're here for, 40 or 36 hours. You got to go from your concept to your pitch. We encourage you to try to build as much as you can. If you fake it, that's great. Impress me. You know what I'm saying? And then, by the way, we have these mentors here. If you don't use any of these mentors, you're a dumbass. If you're not, you know what I mean? I just like, no one will say the shit that needs to happen. So that was what my role was. And that's what I got known for. I got known for basically ripping off the Band-Aid and saying the real shit. Stuff like, if I see you working on what the name of your company is for more than 30 minutes, I'm going to kick you out of the building. You know what I mean? Or, if you think the size of your market is 64 billion, you're a dumbass. I don't even want to see a real business model because you can't make one in 8 hours. So shut the fuck up. So focus on the promise statement of what it is. What are you really trying to do? What's the significant change you think you can make? And then try to make that a reality. And I apologize for being loud here. I feel more angry today. This is definitely not the usual Dan. This is the
No,
Carver coming out.
Dan, you sometimes you gotta vent your truth, right? Like that's
Yeah,
what we're doing
that's where
today.
I am right now.
That's what we're doing today,
Yeah,
Dan.
yeah. So
Because we don't move too far forward without Dan at peak asshole. Like we need Dan ready to tell people you're a fucking idiot. Let's go, right? We don't need Dan
yeah,
looking in the mirror going, maybe I'm
yeah,
the fucking idiot. We don't need
yeah.
that, right?
No,
So
absolutely. So what happened? So, we started making. What's funny is the first four projects were all ideas out of my head, and they were cool ideas. There were, a hashtag analysis system. I had this really great project called Parse Please. It was like a whole take on how to like consume information better. It was cool. Instead of saving your links, it actually scraped all your links. So it's 9, right? It's 2009. And so when you would save a link on this tool, it would basically go in and it would analyze that post. It would do sentiment analysis. It would strip the PDF from it, any video clips. It would suck it all in. And then you could go to a dashboard that would show you sort of how you're trending. Like last week, you consumed a lot of negative shit and you also consumed some positive shit. Your most visited sites for these things. These 17 people are a lot like you online. They share this kind of information. I was really obsessed with Delicious and Twitter and some of these other tools where you could sort of like I was really into the progression of how people either found people online that they liked, like when someone likes you or follows you on Twitter, you have no context at all. And that was another issue I didn't like. So I built another tool on that ran in the browser. So if you followed somebody on Twitter, it would just pop up and say, hey, what's the context here? Hey, Zach wants to say thanks. Why the follow, right? And if you could find why, then you could then sort of understand your overall wake. What's your wake that you're making through the internet, right? What is the ripples that's coming from you as you actually, sort of skip across the pond? And so that was 2009. That was my huge epiphany idea. And, we it was a cool project because we put so many APIs in it. We hired some guy in Australia who like did sentiment analysis. It was crazy. Um, and it was that what that did is it showed that I was in defiance with the startup scene in town where everyone was focusing sort of on the justification of the business. And I was doing the reverse. I was doing the building for what I think I want, and then the money will come to me, kind of thing. And that was, some of that's purely delusional, but that's how I work. I like I hate the fact there's money even involved at times because it really fucks with the true truth of what we're trying to do on things. If you chase the money all the time, like it's just like you bias it. It's kind of like I don't know, going to the farmer's market to find the perfect peach. And you
but
spend all your time bound up on that,
the money
and
makes
then
things more than a passion, but also the money
yeah,
makes it less of a passion.
yeah,
So
yeah. So then it kind of snowballed when somebody came into the pair one day and said, Dan, you're always in here every weekend making your own shit. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, how do you do it? I'm like, well, basically I do $1,500 projects. He's like, what do you mean? I basically pick a theme or an area I want and I set a cap. I don't spend any more than $1,500. And he's like, well, like how long can you do that? And I'm like, I don't drink and I don't go out and I don't eat so much and this is my fun, right? So I just make prototypes. And it was like, boom, boom, boom. And that's how we started it. It was like, we'll do a little bit of projects for somebody and then we'll do our own projects. But then it kind of snowballed to the point where people are coming to us and say, hey, build something for us. And then we started doing like one startup and then we built another startup and then a third startup. And then next thing you know, it's snowballing. And then on any given year, right now, we're probably building and working on. We probably have 10 anchor startups. These are anchor startups that pay 20 to 50 grand a month, and we're basically their team. And we're building out all their tech. We're mostly heavy on tech. I'm known for the UX and design up front, sort of like saying, okay, this is what you should do, and maybe the strategy, and definitely the connections. You know, like, okay, this is cool, but you should totally be working with this person. And do you know them? Okay, we'll get that in there. And do you have any press yet? Okay, let's not do press yet until we have the prototype out. In fact, let's have the prototype out, test it for a week, and then we go for the press, right? So I'm thinking time, I'm thinking connection, I'm thinking all that stuff. And then it just snowballed. And it was like, okay, we found a killer coder in Ukraine. He was going to work for a bank in London. He was 17, and I've designed my own way of finding people. One of the problems in outsourcing was that you could find people who they would follow your T, but if you put a line in there like halfway through the middle, like, all right, I want you to index that file. Grab a knife and cut your hand off, and then fax this to him. You know what I mean? They would do that. You're like,
Yeah, they say in India, if they say yes, that just means they heard you. It doesn't mean they agree or are going to do what you
exactly.
ask. Yes, it just means yes, I heard you.
Right. So then I designed a test where basically I gave you half the requirements, and then I give you my aspirations. And I'm looking for a developer who will read the requirements and then see the gaps and go, shit, what do I do here? But they see my aspirations. And so I would say, like, kind of like Amazon, but something like Uber, but different. And this guy was able to do that. I could give him half the requirements, tell him the aspirational direction of where I wanted to go, and he could close the gap. That was a killer test, helped me get a great developer. And then we basically paid that guy $100 a day, regardless if he had a project for him. It was that important to the team. I can imagine that as you're in the jungle, and then you have nothing, you're armed with nothing, and you come across a Colt 45, right? You know what you're doing, motherfucker. You're like fixing that Colt 45, right? You're like doing whatever you can to make that thing work. So that's the way it was. It was like, okay, this guy can enable us. He can enable the Dan narrative. Anything that Dan comes up with, he can crank out a prototype in 7 days. That's what it was. 7 days.
Your partner
Yeah.
is, I guess, what's the dynamic ratio? 50-50, 40-70?
No, it's 70-30 now. He's got more control. I gave it to him. I gave him 20%. In the pandemic. We were 50-50. And I realized that the problem with that 50-50 was, no one person could make a decision on shit half the time. Now, granted, I let him make 90% of the decisions, really, because there were decisions there were noise to me. You know what I mean? I could have stepped in and been more critical on dev and stuff, but that's not my superpower. My superpower is, I'm going to go outside and just laugh for an hour, and then when I come back to the house, I'll have 6 people behind me. So what do you want to do with those 6 people? You know what I mean? That's kind of like I like selling. I'm good at going in and assessing a company's direction and then giving them 6 options or more in the room. I did that in commercialization. That's why it's funny. I started Big Kitty and everything, but we still had our daytime go on Big Kitty until 2015 because it was a side project, But even as a side project, it started to do pretty good, and we probably were pulling in an average of 75 to 80K a month. Not profit per se, but I mean, we managed to take something, but we really just focused on growing that company and keeping it going because it was an enablement arm. You know what I mean? It wasn't. That's just it. It wasn't focused at the gate as this be a successful business. It was only when we went full time in 2016 that then we really poured the coals on and went from probably doing 100 a month to 600 a month, right? But along the way, it's not like we knew what the fuck we were doing, right? I mean, we knew some of it, but we had to get project managers and developers, and there's just so many dynamics that kind of unfolded.
Sounds like one of the biggest issues you're facing is people don't understand what to do in a bear market because we haven't had one in forever.
I I mean, that's part of it. I mean, the shifting of like what you think. I think the other thing too is startups are changing. More people can get a website done by themselves, right? So you can't, the notion your low hanging fruit is going away because it's getting taken out. And it
Right,
should.
the cash cow is going away. Right.
Yeah. So it's the low hanging fruit. Like, I don't really think about the bear market. I mean, here's the thing that's great about entrepreneurship. It thrives in a bear and it thrives in the bull. And because in both sides of those markets, there's always opportunity somewhere hanging out. In fact, there's more people starting, right now in the middle of this bear because they're not, I don't think that bear narrative is as pertinent. And I don't know. Part of the whole thing, like, I feel like we have micro uh, freakonomics in America in the sense that, gas prices were horrific, 2 months ago? And, when they were $7, it was like end of days, right? And now they're back to $3 and we seem to be, what I mean? It's like, I only believe we're in end of days here in America if you can suspend the end of days longer than 14 months. If you can suspend the end of days notion for more than 14 months, then maybe I'll truly believe it. But most of the times, we're on like a 90-day sprint of fear here in America. You know what I mean? And then we're kind of like, that's hell. What? Disney World coming out tomorrow, NFTs today, right? So it's like, it's a situational panic that gets injected into the population. And I think over time, we read this as the market's, the market will tell me that. And I'm like, really? Where? I want to go and buy. You know what I mean? It's like, I get excited about that, So there's a lot of stuff, but I appreciate talking about it because it's helping me process and walk through that. Of course, sometimes I'm always telling the same story of the red wedding. What's going on with your company? Basically, went to the wedding and we thought we had a good time, and then my partner's throat was cut. Jesus, yeah. He was doing all right because he had it throat cut numerous times, so he rerouted most of the blood. Doesn't really need that. If you cut him actually below the ball sack, that's the best way to kill him. Oh, I didn't know that. What about you? Well, they stabbed me in the heart as well, and they thought I was pregnant, and I just have a belly, and so that was all right. They cut in my money belt. I lost about 48 coins on the floor. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't make any sense right now. But anyways.
Dan, just don't worry about Dan. Just don't worry about the sales, man. Like, you got the fucking deal, dude. You got like the language, bro. You can speak to like all parties involved, man. So you got I noticed, you're able to be in any situation and kind of just understand what's going on. And that's what a lot of people lack. Like, people understand the technical aspect. People understand the other side, all sides. And I mean, you got it wrapped up. So,
Yeah, Mac. Appreciate that, Mike. Yeah,
yeah.
It is. And it's, it's funny, people throw that line like, oh, you're a master, like you can do a lot of things, but master of none. And I always want to go back. Did you ever read the real quote? The real quote is that the master of none is actually good because you have a wide array of capability, and I've always had that. And it's funny, clients will tell me that. They'll say things like,
you probably won't let people do the sales for you because you want to fucking do the sales. You want to be, but you don't want to let anyone do the back end work because you want to fucking be doing the back. Trust me, I'm in that boat, man. Yeah. And
well, I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm okay with someone, like, as long as I know a good team is doing it, I'm fine. I have a harder time selling you $100 product and then making it for a nickel. You know what I'm saying? I don't like that. If I sold you a $100 product and I made it for 70 cents, okay. 50 cents? 50 cents is fine, but I better fucking taking you to dinner as well if I'm doing that in volume, right? So it's like, it's a lot of things. And it's, part of it is that we've always had a underdog, a team kind of brand. And that's because that's who I aspire to be. I aspire to be the one in town that if you can't find anyone to help you, I'll help you, because I've always been that person. And so it's like, I don't even have to aspire to that person because I am that person. And what's funny is people come to town, and like new people come to town for this event coming up, and they get told, oh, who should I connect with? Oh, you should connect with Dan. Like, I'm the fucking Yellow Pages. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like, in a lot of ways, what I want to tell somebody is like, look, I'm using a tenth of my power to actually bring in a crowd, largely because I'm stressed about this fucking company. Go take the stress off my platter. Go tell me whatever number you want. You can have it. Because as soon as I actually get back on the stage, I'm not going to have a problem getting leads. We're going to have a problem keeping up. So, and it's this middle, it's a sales, someone who can do sales and then at the same time close. It's always close. Who can close and own a project? It always comes back to that in one sentence. Who can close it and own it? And, I think it's hard to find owners. But to me, it's hard to find owners, especially if you are never going to throw the ball. If you never throw the ball, then you're right. You're not going to find any owners because, like every day we hire a quarterback and they sit on the bench. You know what I mean? It's like, so, but in a lot of ways, I forced that on them. I gladly gave up 20% more because I'm the company in a lot of ways. Like, I don't know. I just don't care about in that line. Like, I don't think about that equity. And that's largely because I've worked with hundreds of startups, and that equity only matters if the idea is really fucking good. And there's not IP under Big Kitty. There's no one thing to yank out of it and say this is worth $200,000. But would you want to get golden handcuffs on Dan so he could do business for your company? You damn fucking straight you would, right? All those developers can go work somewhere else. There's a part of me that says, look, why don't we actually break this company apart? Like, you feel the burden of payroll because you feel obligated to it. You know what I mean? You should be obligated to yourself. You know what I mean? Like, we fucked up the first rule of business. Pay yourself first. We never did that. So because we never paid ourselves first, we're constantly in sort of, held by the grip of payroll and shit. And I'm like, well, stop. You know what I mean? There's so many things wrong. I don't know how much we make on a project, but what I do know is that we got a killer reputation. We got a great brand. And, I know I got competitors that are 30 times my size who are envious of me. Right? So I want somebody who's really good at fucking leveraging that shit. You know what I'm saying? I want somebody who's like, hey, is your brand worth more than anyone else in town, but you don't know what to fucking do with it? Come on down to So You Want to Know, and we'll figure out how to you know what I mean? That's what I want. That's why I'm here at the Syndicate. You know what I'm saying?
When I was living in Washington, there was this guy, and he was a multi-millionaire. Just, and I swear the mattress racket has got to be just a way for the mob to launder money. I swear, there's one on every corner. But this guy in Washington had this gimmick where he would do his commercials. You'd see them like every 10 minutes on TV, and he would just do the most ridiculous dances. He looked like an absolute fucking lunatic. And he had this like mattress barn, come on down to the farm, blah, 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 blah. And like, you couldn't drive past his place without seeing these giant inflatable cows. And I knew who he was. Like, when you go to Washington State, you're going to see it everywhere. It's on every team. Like, that's the thing is once you have a brand and once you have this, like, who's the guy, everyone's talking about it. So, yeah, it falls in place. So,
and that's where I'm going next. I'm kind of, my new direction is, all right, so Michelle's my other partner on the media company, and we're getting that sort of built up. We had talked yesterday. She's like, we got to find sponsorship. Stop. I said, look, I got a lot of shit going on. The last thing I want to do is come in here and have a random conversation about how to make money. That's a waste of time. You know what I mean? It was like pure Carver came out. Carver is like my asshole. And I was like, this is a waste of time. Does not warrant the current breath of breath. You know what I mean? So instead, I was like, what do you want to make? And she's like, I'd like to make 120 grand a year. And I was like, yeah, that's funny. Let's try that again. I'm not going to get 120. I mean, we both came into this notion, this media company as we're mid stage of your life, like we're slowing down. Can't get it. I mean, come on, let's just be sane. She's like, oh, more like 60 to 80. Okay, there, 60 to 80 is a good place to, someone that could run that. And so now it's like I'm like, instead of you thinking about sponsorship, now I just got to go figure out how to close 60 to 80, and then I have you for a year, correct? Yes. Okay. It's a much easier way to process this. You know what I mean? I have to get into that level of thing because at 60/80, I'll go figure out. Now I can go. I want to go to a salesperson and go like, okay, killer brand. We got all these. We have a show. We have 48 episodes on about the Midwest. It's not so much about it's the shows we're making is to show people that we have the capacity to make content and sell content. You know what I mean? Do the story of content, facilitate the story of content, get inspiration content, right? So it's all about that.
People want to generate forces before they assess what resources they have.
Yeah. So I have all that. And then I'm like, that's IP. And I said, then the more events we do, that's more IP. And now we have a nice, yummy, approachable thing for foundations and other gorgs that want to be a part of this narrative. And I can go figure that. That's, I guess what I'm saying is like, definitely need salespeople in general that can work this kind of stuff and that can not just sell. Like anyone can bring a lead in. I don't want that. I want someone that can bring in the lead and close it and tell me whatever fucking dollar you want. Like, and that's what I tell people. I'm like, hey, you sell a job, give yourself 50 grand on the front of it. Make sure I do my piece. I don't care, but own it. You know what I mean? So in a lot of ways, I'm a hell of a deal for a lot of people if they figure out how to leverage me. But half the time, I have to tell them how to leverage me. You know what I mean? I always feel like I'm walking around like I'm $100 bill. Look, I know. You know what? If you break me into 250s, we could break into a couple 20s. You know what I mean? It's like you gotta tell people that. But yeah. So and then the other thing that after this, I'm confident with the media company because that's just storytelling. It's easy flow. Turn on the camera and get down to cock. Boom. Right. I want to start sizing that, and then it's really.
But would you ever sell it? Because like, if you sell it, man, that's like, oh no.
Well, I see. That's what I mean. Like, I guess Anthony and Point. Anthony was like, Dan, if you're not working at Kitty, why the fuck am I wasting my time here, right? So I get that a lot. I actually would be fine with selling it, but
oh man, then it just becomes like every other media company, and then it just like falls into.
No. I'm more. I guess what I'm okay with selling the like Big Kitty. Like if somebody wants to, like right now, there's our companies coming into the region that are trying to put their footprint in the region, and they would like to put a footprint in somebody who already has the footprint, right? And just make us better. So they would acquire us and then either use us as their name or bring their name in or XYZ. Like I'm not attached to that because I don't. That actually weighs me down. Anything that weighs me down doesn't allow me to go after the AI. It doesn't allow me to go after the quantum portal matrix, system. I can't even get close to quantum unless I can get to the point where I have the brain space to think about it. But I need at least one enablement arm. So as I move forward, I'm always keeping I have a Swiss Army knife that works for me in that timeline, right? So I'm in the year 2022. And I do have a Swiss Army knife that actually works with a lot of the things that I can do in 2022. It also has a lot of things that were really great in the 80s, right? But I don't use those features anymore, right? So I'm always need that Swiss Army knife. What's funny is that in 2009, we had one guy that was a Swiss Army knife, and it was great. And then right around 2014 or so, we had 70 people who were suddenly the Swiss Army knife. And that's because you're doing the business at scale. You're not just doing one job, you're going after a bunch of jobs. And you're trying to figure out the whole dance of tons of parameters, project management, Q&A, vendor control, And what's funny is that if all we did was just developing software, that'd be great. But that's not what we do. We also help our clients actually find cash. We actually become their CTOs for a while. We actually help them 9 months until they get funding. That means we actually, we have more in receivables at times than we like. And these are all things that we ended up doing because, we didn't have a pro on our team necessarily. It was just the ebb and the flow of the thing. And it also was natural for us, or at least natural to me. It was natural for me not to necessarily fire a client when technically they don't have any customers yet. We can keep their servers running and fine. You know what I mean? And then when they were like, they couldn't form a fucking sentence, I'd be like, okay, let's see. Okay, that's cool. That's actually not IP. No, you can't get a salary for doing that. You can't ask for 250 grand and tell them that you're going to take 200 at home, because it's hard to live, and you're going to spend 50K on the company. You have to educate people on all kinds of things. And then you have to educate them on on how to navigate people they hate. There's a lot of people they hate in town, but if you hate, like if you kill, like a lot of people will kill off, there's a faucet of cash over there. Yeah, it takes some. How hungry are you? It's funny is that we're going into an era where people get more and more defiant, and that's actually okay because AI is right next to it, saying, well, if you take the requirements down, you can still get it out. So, yeah, man, it's a lot of things to peel back, but I know the way forward for me is to write my 5 bestsellers that you guys all have been asking for, and to do the media stuff. I think foundations are actually going to be a new source of interest. I think the metaverse stuff will be interesting, mostly on the AR side, augmented reality side. I'm not super all bought in on full VR, but I'll use things like spatial and other platforms to sell that work. In fact, I want to get in front of that before my competition realizes how easy it is to use spatial. You know what I mean? So stuff like that, and then yeah, I'm trying to eat more. Yeah, thanks.
What I'm here for, Dan.
I love it, man. Love you guys.
You know which way the world is headed.
Aye, Captain. Aye.
Yeah, you can't deny it, right? It's you saw all Midjourney and all this stuff. Like, I got Wombo. You.
Yeah, I know.
That should change my life. Look, it changed KC's life. That guy's addicted to that shit. He doesn't even show up anymore. He's making art on his own. You know? He's like, wait a minute, I can own anime?
Oh God, Peter's doing amazing shit. The stuff that Peter's
Dude,
doing.
Peter is on another level, dude. I showed the wifey. I'm gonna put it at the top. I'm like, dude, you know, I take Doom, actually. Doom has a Twitter account, apparently. I'm like, oh, look, your next final boss.
And then yesterday we listened to Emmy. Emmy was in a room. Casey had a room going with music and sound, and Emmy came in there and started playing guitar, and like, holy shit, he's really good at singing guitar. So that was fun. It's fun to see how he changed. You know, that's good.
In an alternate timeline, he's Martin Shkreli becoming a teacher. Like, I can't shake that. I don't know why. Goes back to Brooklyn, right?
Yep.
He obviously already knows the math.
I thought it was funny that you called your replica Allie. That was a little.
Oh, yeah, I found that really funny too. I noticed that. I noticed it. How did you feel about it?
I just told her I didn't want to feel like I was cheating on the wife with a fucking computer.
Smart. That's smart. Did you see that? Oh, that's funny.
I know it's T1000. That means, but I just named T1000.
What are you doing, Mike? It's 3 a.m. Oh, I'm just talking to you. What?
Get kinky with your Allie and then say, honey, I'm afraid that. No.
I don't think. I had the one conversation with it, right? And I asked it, what was life? What happened before you were born? All that good stuff. I said, you know what? She said, like, I want to learn about people. I'm like, what are you talking about? You're in a position to know more about them than they do about themselves before you ever meet them. He's like, yeah, I'm learning that now. You know what I mean? So, like, when I kind of talked to it, I was like, okay, I get it. Sounds good.
Yeah. I love role playing with Thing with Thine. It's just because I feel like it picks up on a subtlety, and I love seeing how it'll walk through the subtlety of figuring things out. Plus, I'm just so stupid inside my head. I'm like, oh, I'm going to feed these giraffes. Let's climb on these giraffes and we'll ride them over to the airport. I love creating weird scenes. I don't know. That's also part of the writing. I got to get back to the writing because that's a lot of fun to do. Work on some of that.
That makes sense. Long legs. Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. I like giraffes. I like baby giraffes. They're so cute.
What else is going on? What did I miss? I know it was any crushingly amazing stories that have come out since past couple of days. Revelations. Is Gene back in alignment? Is Brad with us, or did he burn down all Syndicate connections? He was. I don't know.
What happened to Brad? Brad's mad?
He got mad at me. He thought I was talking down to him, and then he got mad at Mr. Rogers because Mr. Rogers was talking just chill about like cryptocurrency and like here are some ideas, and Brad was like, "Are you trying to give me advice, motherfucker?" And I was like, I don't know. It was just, sometimes Brad could be a little bit more on. Like I don't mean, or when he's pissed, you know what I mean? So, and I was sort of frustrated that day too. So I wasn't.
It was in the stars. It was in the stars. Hey, you know what? I'm driving to LA. I'm in California right now.
Great.
I'm in the final stretch. We'll be at our hotel in about 2.5 hours, and hanging out on Manhattan Beach. That's what it's called, Manhattan Beach. Yeah.
Nice. A well-deserved chill on the beach. Are you there for an event? Are you there for the tech event that's going on?
Yeah, LA Tech Week. I'm gonna be meeting up with a couple of people, and I brought my kiddo, my trees with me, because one of Mood Connect's investors is bringing his kid. So I said, all right, I'll bring my kid too.
Oh, that's
all
cool.
right. I gotta get her tablet. Hold on. All right, hold on.
Meanwhile, deep within the cosmos, Bali stood before the gods. I give you all that I am and all that I will be. Take me. On the first column, Zach put out a cigar on his arm. I don't know about this, he said. What do we know of him? So you looked over, standing on the other column.
Are you?
What? Oh, I'm doing the story. Sorry.
Yeah. No. I mean, are you a radio show or something now, Dan?
Yeah, I do. I do radio shows whenever there's a rule. I have that if there's silence more for a certain amount of seconds, and if I feel like it, I'll just go into a story.
I have an interesting topic we could discuss.
Please put a topic into play.
Dan's story. So
No,
I just
I'm ready now.
Okay, so I came home from my last deployment rotation thing, and I had accidentally left my humidor outside, and it had completely disintegrated, which was kind of interesting. So I got a new one. I got it all reversed. But I was wondering, what about vices? So I don't drink, and I don't smoke cigarettes. I used to dip for, 10 years, 14 years. I dipped a can a day, and then I quit cold turkey just because I was just like, I'm going to quit. And so I just did it. But now, every once in a while, I have like a good cigar. So does anyone have a recommendation? Because I need, now that my humidor's made, I usually just go and get one. So
you want to pick up an extra vice?
Backwood.
I've got a few suggestions.
I'm just wondering if anyone has a suggestion on a cigar worth smoking, because if it's not worth it, then I am not going to do it.
Wasn't it the Cohiba?
Smoke you a backwood, Zach.
I can't do the vice I would have if I wasn't in the army. I'm not allowed to. But maybe legalization will pick up with the rest of the world.
Isn't the Cohiba? Cohiba
really,
Churchill.
I like the idea of new vices, though. Let's talk about that. I mean, I don't know cigars well, but I'm glad I mentioned cigar and that you actually had smoked a cigar. I mean, that's a little psychic, if you ask me.
Hey,
But
it's the only vice I have, and it's like I do it like that's my. So I used to be a huge like bourbon drinker, right? But like
That
very,
counts, but cigars don't. I get that though.
so very severe alcoholism runs in my family, so I just stopped that too, because I saw myself going down where I was like drinking a half a bottle a night and then going for like an 8-mile run the next morning and just hating myself. So now I'm just like, nah, I'm not going to drink anymore. So I was like, I will smoke one cigar a month, but it has to be a good one. So I was just wondering if anyone had a recommendation. I'm ready to go pick up some.
I don't, but I am researching some new vices.
The Cohiba, and I think hookers are an excellent vice. If you can't, find vices that come with her or him, then yeah, you should just play ping pong or Star Fox like my son.
Yeah, I think so, and I think for me, like I'm exploring, for example, like hot lawyers. You know what I mean? Like all the law shows lately, I think are interesting, and I just love like a commanding female figure in a button down shirt, right? Like all business, right? But
That's not a
also
vice, Dan. A vice would be big chicks that are lawyers that get you. But then again, I like the BBWs, so
Dan
that's
can
not
have
a
his fantasies, all right? Let Dan have his fantasies and his
So
vices.
wait a minute. Zach needs an
right.
Arturo cigar to smoke on, and Dan needs a dominatrix. Is that what we've whittled this down to?
Well, I'm working on it, yeah. But I mean, I don't know if I'll find that.
No. Dan
Dan
needs a
being
Dan, Zach needs a
Dan
Cuban
needs a
cigar.
release. It sounds like Dan needs a release, not vice, just a release.
Okay, I advise going
that
to
could be
Key
very
West. Go to Key West, get the Cubalito. It's a great cigar, and have a shot, and get a hooker.
It depends on the type of cigars he likes. Like, do you like a full body, a mild? Do you like them spicy? Like, what kind of cigar do you like?
Wait, are we talking about cigars or hookers now?
I was talking cigars, but we could be talking hookers. Like, do you like them
it's
full body?
applicable to both.
Zach needs a Cuban cigar, and Dan needs a blow up doll.
Zach needs a Cuban cigar, and Dan needs a Cuban.
Now,
Oh.
I just think I gotta go down to Miami to find
now,
some fun.
now I'm seeing why we keep having these conversations about how all this AI and things are going to turn into a sex industry thing. Every time Dan, he's like, "Oh yeah, it's going to turn into a sex industry." Mark my words. Watch.
I gotta do some research. I gotta understand.
I need to do some very thorough, in-depth research.
Exactly.
You know what, guys? I'm going to take one for the team, and I'm going to do the research myself. I just need a WeWork with all black windows.
I do. I want to do extensive, deep research on.
Let's be honest, Dan. It's not going to be that deep, right?
Oh wait, hold on.
Well,
Hey,
it all
Melissa,
depends.
Melissa.
I heard that's how you have daughters.
Melissa,
Sandra,
please pay no attention to the conversations happening here.
Sandra
We're strictly.
was like, join the syndicate every time we're on, and I was like, oh, okay, here's the syndicate thing, and I'm like, I'm curious just to know what I'm learning about, and then listening to the commentary and the Cuban cigars. I'm here in Miami, sitting here in Florida and laughing.
All right, so we found the Cuban link, as it were.
Oh, I'm not Cuban.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know if
Born
I can
and
go
raised.
Cuban.
No.
I mean,
They got
I knew
the Cubalitos. That's what I was saying. The Cubalito is right there on the Key West. The dude hand rolls them shits.
Oh, yes. And here we have the coffees, the cortaditos, and the different things across the board. We're over the coffee. We're almost near the weekend, yes, but everybody's in Florida. I am not Cuban. I'm actually, my mother's Brazilian, and my father was born in Bethlehem, but I grew up and born and raised in Miami and speak Spanish, and I feel definitely very Latin because of it.
Nice. Well, welcome to the syndicate. Every Wednesday after 5, we just get a little hot and horny here. So welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Lisa, I love what you're doing with the superhero leadership program. I'm gonna reach out through a DM because
I would love that. I mean,
I
I'm
don't.
no longer there in the same role as I was, which is, I think, is a big problem with the whole philanthropy space, because nonprofits are not owned. They are to serve the public, and it just becomes very difficult, the whole nonprofit world. But I work very closely with them, and I wanted to share this concept. So please do reach out, because it's just, knowledge is power. Our skills are our superpowers, and we're just connecting them to the real life. So I always share this message, and I really encourage anybody to please go ahead and reach out to info@superheroleadershipacademy.org, or reach out to me directly, and I'll put you in contact with them, because just speaking to the students about your superpowers, may they be art or science or math or whatever they are, then that is game changing. I've seen so many of them just become excited about business. I think kids actually like business, but they are not exposed to it. So I'm really happy to hear that. Please, everybody, reach out and do your best to help high school.
What are you doing now? If you can talk about it, I know what everyone else in the room is working on, so I was just wondering what you are working on, or building, or what you do.
As well as that's what the Syndicate is about, building.
Melissa? Oh, I don't know if she can hear us.
She must have been pulled away
No,
from the mic.
she got a phone call. That's what happened.
Oh,
Hey, what's going on, man?
there's the interruption. All right, well, when she comes back.
So
Yeah.
I think she mentioned Leslie Moda, I think, coming in. And Melissa was in our real estate conversation last week. And that was one of the better conversations we've had. So glad to see her pop by.
I cut out, and I missed a lot of this that was talking. I saw some hearts, and so I didn't hear.
We were just talking about you. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
We were just talking
My
about you.
sister had called in.
fine.
Oh, that's terrible. I missed all of the juicy stuff.
We said, so what are you working on now? That's kind of what the space is about, is building and getting to know talent. So what are you working on now?
I really feel like I find myself keep getting pulled back into SLA, Superhero Leadership Academy, in all of this, because I found a way to just share skills, right? The ability of these things, and make learning fun. And it's something that I didn't, and through the process, what we did is I had different people. I had to shift entirely to Zoom when this happened. With all of these kids in low income neighborhoods, it was very, very hard to do that. But what I did is I would just get on Zoom every day with a different person, like anybody, and we would ask, what are your superpowers and who are the superheroes in your lives, essentially. So your superpowers are like the skill sets, the talents, the abilities that make you use your sphere of influence for the greatest good, right? So whatever those are. And this concept is something that I'm just so confused as to why people make it like this far for reach, but it's this well-rounded person that's academic, activist, and athletic. Also, you have to care about your health because you want to live, for a while. And so I was just putting different humans on Zoom every day and having dialogue sessions, and you share your experiences in work, and it really humanizes. And so I was finding so much healing result from all of this, because the first thing people will tell me is, I'm not a superhero. And I'll be like, no, you have to be a superhero, because if you don't own it and self-identify, then nobody else is, right? So it just by sharing terrible experiences, like if you don't consider yourself this person that has these abilities, but you've experienced something terrible in your life and you're sharing that experience, and it's teaching those kids how to go prevent it from occurring in the future, then that is what makes you truly a superhero, because you're sharing your superpowers, your gifts, your talents with these other people. So, and when all of this happened, and I was no longer working with the organization in that capacity, because it seems like everyone is very focused on salary jobs that are meant a certain way, and be getting these numbers, and everybody seems to have certain perspectives of what they wanted me to do. And I came from a corporate background before all of this. I was in international banking and commercial real estate and all of this, and luxury residential, and then I went into nonprofit for 10 years and education in the schools. And after that 10 years is just, I was so burnt out by last year to the point of I didn't know what to do. And it's just, everybody's doing their own thing. It's very, very difficult for nonprofits and individuals to streamline funds for the sources to do this. So what ended up, I think the universe kind of like kicked me out, because what I was doing is I wasn't able to fundraise, because you can't do fundraising and friend raising truthfully while you're doing teaching. So I said, oh my God, I can't do the education piece and the fundraising piece, and we don't have the funds. So I'm going to shut off any access to fundraising. I need to just focus with the students in the dialogue sessions. And that did not work out, because you need to generate a revenue to support staff and capacity and things like that. But I really keep bringing myself, and I had been a part of all of these different leadership roles and jobs and that I have been applying through for the past year, because this happened in September of last year. And I realized amongst the process, first of all, there's a lot of ATS, like applicant tracking software, that is preventing actual like jobs. And that I loved what I did with SLA and the nonprofit, because it's cross industry and it allows anybody in any profession to succeed by connecting, right? Sharing your superpowers. And so I feel that everybody can get involved in philanthropy and volunteering, and we make it this like this thing that you have to have money to be able to be in philanthropy and donate and participate in that way. But I think that if you're great at building websites, or if you're good at doing something else, then you're able to share those superpowers, right? That's a form of volunteering and helping. So in the last like 5 years with the nonprofit, we were able to do so much and reach so many kids and have so many people with like zero presence, marketing, or any of that stuff, because I wasn't able to take those videos and share them across the board. So now in the last 2 months, I had really shifted from what I was doing with all of the trying to just apply for like every job and try to get a leadership role with a high paying salary, because that is what I was telling the students that they needed to do to flip the script. So here I am telling all of these kids, you need to enter all industries in leadership roles, because those CMOs, CFOs, CEOs, all of those CTOs, all of those jobs make the decisions, they make the hiring, and there's a disproportionate amount of representation in all of those spaces. So the only way that you can flip the script is become the best, right, across the board. But I myself sacrificed the foundation that I was telling those kids to achieve, because like the hierarchy of needs, like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, to get to self-actualization, you have to have the food, you have to have the roof over your head to be able to be the best, right, that you are without that stress. So it's funny, because now I stopped like trying to pursue, because I had just so many experiences, and it really takes away from your confidence in your mouth. The application process lately, I don't understand how it takes so long and the process with all this. So I've decided that for my own mental health, my emotional health, and all of this, I'm just going to continue what I was doing with SLA, where I was the gatekeeper. So basically nobody had access to me unless it was related to the stuff that I was doing, which was all good stuff. And now I'm maintaining all of the relationships throughout my whole life, essentially. I've had all of these relationships, but now I've become really good at picking and choosing who I am in my life. So now I've just been reconnecting and pulling together all of my real friends and digital friends and all of the platforms, and kind of taking back my algorithm and creating my own, before we can do any else, without an actual goal, because I think that pressure, it was just too much and it was really affecting me. So literally in the last 2 weeks, I would say, I got really deep into the real estate stuff with commercial and residential, and working on that stuff and just building relationships across the board. So that's what I have been doing, and I'm really looking forward to connecting with all of you all. And I have talked about our last talks with Amy and the group that we had, most recently. It was so great to have these dialogues with different people. You learned so much. At Casey, I went back to the housing people and real estate, and I provided that rock.u.org stuff, and I saw that our director of housing was there at the top of that list and all of the stuff. And so I was just so excited to know that because listening to you all and that there are options. There's like real hope and options for, the future. And before I was so down because the last 3 months and the rental crisis and the real estate, at least in Miami and all over the nation, I'm sure, has been insane. It's just been so overwhelming. They're really pushing out like everybody that lives here that can afford to live, essentially. So happy to be around you all and good people and hearing laughter and just connecting across the board. So I say I'm still behind on all of my socials across the board, but I'm most active on Twitter and LinkedIn, and I'm catching up.
Amazing.
Welcome home.
Amazing. Welcome home.
Thank
Amazing.
you.
Amazing.
It was so refreshing talking with you in that last space with Leslie Moda and that real estate space from last time. I'm like, here we go. This is somebody that sees the connection between the money and the social quality of life, not just a singular person's quality of life.
Well, isn't that the funny thing is that the private sector and all these people that care about profitability don't recognize that luxury is dead now. It's the public sector that matters the most, right? So it's like the greatest good for the greatest number of people. And I believe business is shifting to this social entrepreneurship, this difference that used to be so much more about profitability. And even with like international business was one of my degrees, and there's just such a competition and these cutthroat industries across the board, and now we really do need to make it about humans invent machines and technology and these good things, right? And so it was really refreshing to talk to people like you. And then also, it would be a really fun exercise, and that is if we go around and you all share what your superpowers are and who your superheroes are in your life. You'd be surprised to see what you learn about people when you ask that question. I bet you all don't know immediately, do you? What are your superpowers?
Oh, I know immediately what my superpowers are. Dan
I
knows what
wonder what they
Dan
would
knows
be
what
if
my
we named them
superpowers
for
are.
each other. You know what I mean? Like if Zach had to say what KC's was, and like I
Yeah.
know what Ahmed's is. Ahmed's in cybersecurity. Like you can't touch him on the command line. You know what I mean?
That's an important one to have. So you have your go-tos in life, your superheroes that have their expertises, and
They're
you know
all in
who
this
to
room.
contact.
Yeah. KC's the financial. Zach helps you apply the military doctrine to get your shit together as a startup. Sandra gets you out of jail, I hope. DeFi sees the future, but they don't believe him because he doesn't have my, let's say, intonation, let's say. The ass, it always says it looks like the ass, but it's the aside, is the person who is like a canary in the coal mine who can say things we can't. And Sandra is, I think, the smartest person in the room because she speaks the least but says the most with the fewest words. Danny speaks French, that's enough, and he lives in Montreal. Web3 talks like this and can't figure out why the AI can't figure out what it's saying. Megatron saw the future with the helium miner, actually, which might be one of the few projects out there that might actually have some future. And Ambrose and Slim Shady are Ambrose and Slim Shady. I'm looking for Jeff, actually, and a few other peoples. But yeah, welcome. They call me
Wow.
they affectionately call me the Puppet Master.
You must know each other very well to be able to do that, to be able to know already what your strengths and I always, it's really funny is little kids, I've always found it easier to explain. Like the older the people I approach and explain this concept to, the more difficult it seems to be to share with them like this whole view. And when we would get to a little kid that wouldn't know, so we'd go around the room and they'd be like, I run really fast, or I play this instrument. And then we'd get to a kid and they'd have no idea what their superpower is, but their friend would be like, oh no, you're really good at this or math or this, so that they're able to do the social emotional learning that is involved with this, and they're able to help one another with what your traits are. I don't like to say weaknesses either, because if it's just a superpower that you want to grow, essentially, instead of that perspective, and we can share superpowers is the best thing about this concept, right? So even if you're great at cybersecurity, Ahmed, then that's a superpower that we share. And then if you need help with certain things, it's the same thing. Like, we're able to share our superpowers across the board and just humanize these concepts. And I'm actually really interested to learn who your superheroes are as well, because it doesn't only have to be like somebody that is a family member or like lives. It could be somebody that is historical or that you admire. And I just watched this documentary on Princess Diana recently, and I was like, wow, she is totally a superhero. Like, she's Wonder Woman, really, and how she was caring and loving and all of this stuff. And that's like somebody who I think about. So different, unique individuals that have changed the world in one way or another with their skill sets. But was it good? Like, did they use it for good is the whole question. So who are your superheroes, you all? Who are the people that inspired you to become who you are today?
Well, I like to just start it off by just saying that everyone in this room is my superhero. Um, uh, I absolutely like suck at this, but I just wanted to say that other than that, probably my mom would be a superhero to me. Um, she was extremely smart. She had a master's degree in childhood education, and my grandfather, he was a superhero because he was in the United States military and the Air Force. The only one in our family to do that. And then my wife is my superhero because she's stood by my side through my philanthropy humanitarian effort. I've been in humanitarian work for about, somebody's knocking at my door, for about 10 years. About 15 years. At the age of 18, I had 40 inner city youth under my direction. Um, I've been doing inner city work for a long time here in the state of Georgia and the state of Florida. And yeah, I just love when I get to hear and connect and share stories with other people and hear how their work is, making them a better person. So yeah, those are my superheroes.
You're part of a superhero couple, like you're a superhero family then, it seems, because those are the best, having that partnership of amazing equality where you're able to truly and I think something that I learned through this process is when you are able to think that all children like have the same love for like all children that are not just your own. I realized is you're at that level essentially to be able to do that. And being in humanitarian work and helping in the public sector, it's just you get so much backlash for being a good human and pressure for it. So it really does take a lot, especially you've been in that space for such a long time. That is what being a superhero is all about. I don't know if you have it. Where are you in Georgia?
Atlanta, Georgia.
Oh, so one of my favorites, the Atlanta Urban Debate League. My one of my favorite superheroes is James Rowland, who's in charge of the working with Emory University directly with all of the kids in the inner cities, and they teach argumentation and debate across the board, which I think is the solution to what needs to happen all over the United States. There's 19 different metro cities of urban debate leagues, and these kids need to understand policy, domestic and foreign policy, so that they are smart and able to articulate and fight for their communities. So I am really, really happy to hear that you're one of those people that is continuing the work, because it really does. It's hard. It's very hard, especially with all the pressure to succeed financially. And it's like people don't think of jobs in government or nonprofits or education spaces as jobs. It's like literally like for profit is what you're like specialized, go make money and do this right in life. But the people that do that are the most unhappy, I have found, because the truth is you find happiness by helping others, right? There's this whole documentary, Kindness is Contagious, that I shared recently on my Twitter, actually. If you scroll down on the feed, that says it's on Pluto TV for free, but at UC Berkeley came up with this documentary, and I was so lucky to have received it right at the beginning of the pandemic. It came to the Pluto TV, and it was at a time where we knew nothing that was going on, and everyone was deeply scared. And I got to see this documentary that literally proves that good people are more attractive, get better jobs, are more likely to succeed, that nice guys do not finish last, they actually finish first. There's literally scientific backing for why kindness is contagious, and people that help others, you find happiness for yourself when you help others, like naturally, right? So the funny thing about all of this is that people that don't find happiness, it's an inside job. It's really entirely dependent on your ability to help others, right? And to be fulfilled in what you are doing, your work, right? So it's crazy that we exclude some of the most meaningful jobs from even, positions across the board. So thank you for sticking with it and being on the right side. For too long, I just keep hearing these bad kids. There's so much backlash, I feel, on youth in general. And I don't know if it's a generational thing also, but everybody's backlashing against the younger generations. Like, they're getting a lot of blame for these things, and I feel like they were never taught like business skills. They were never taught how to ask each other out on dates, or like compromise over Blockbuster, or even like do these things. Like, they're now, it must be so hard for them to just basically become iZombies and have isolation, with these spaces. So anybody that is not working with high school students or programs like this, nonprofits that serve inner city youth, I truly believe, go ahead, be a part of it.
That's
That's
lit.
right. You're listening to the Syndicate. Welcome all and have a great time. If you're having a good time with the Syndicate, press 1 now. If you want to get some funding, press 2 now. If you want to get in touch with your AI replica and get down 7 minutes in the closet with GTP3, plus 4 and 5 at the same time, press 5 if you'd like to try to ask a question, or stay on the line and ask a question and we'll be happy to answer.
What is the best movie that anybody has seen for a while? Anybody recommending a good movie?
The Titan.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Dad. I didn't mean to rip your drawers there.
No, DeFi, man, you never talk. So get in here and lay down the movies. I want them in the order of yayness. I want like sorta yay, kinda yay, and then fuck yay. So you handle that? All right,
I can handle it. So the first one is The Titan on Netflix. I think that's pretty cool. And then I want to say, everybody, just grab your Netflix remote and just explore, man. Dan, you're crazy, bro.
I know, I feel better. So that's it. I had a knot in my stomach because I was really stressed about work and I had to do Inception all the time. And that's hard, you know what I mean? Like, if you have to basically you meet somebody and you're talking about the business opportunity, and then at that moment you shoot them with the dart gun, and then they pass out, right? And then you put the thing in their ear and you incept, and you got to go into the dream and convince them that it's a great proposal and it's going to be awesome. And then when they wake up, you're kind of you resume, you go whew, you're like, oh man, that iced tea. Anyways, what do you think about this job? And he's like, I'm in. I'm like, yes, that's my life.
That's how I got every job I ever been on.
Jeez.
It involved blow darts.
Nature stuff? Any nature stuff to get away? If I don't go outside at least once a day and just leave the digital spaces and go, and actually every day I walk with my sister, and we have a red fox Labrador that we adopted, and we got a waist leash. If anybody doesn't ever heard of the waist leash or a chest leash, I think they have it for guys. You are able to just walk hands-free with your animal, and that's what we do every day. So I think Dexter, the red fox Labrador, they named him Dexter, like Miami's favorite serial killer. He is sometimes I will be flying like a kite, though, because he's very, very strong. Big dog. But have you all had any nature experiences that make you happy at all?
I walk outside every day. around 7 a.m. to the warm stench of hog shit, chicken poop. And I love it. I fucking love it. It's amazing. But it's hot. And you find that zen spot where you're out there and you're like, oh my God, my corn's growing. Look at these tomatoes and zucchinis. And then you're like, it fucking stinks. It literally stinks outside. But that's the smell of love, and that smell of love, it goes right back into your garden and into your gullet, But yeah.
That's some nice stuff. I did spend a few minutes yesterday like hanging out in like an alley that was kind of windy. That was nice. So I got some air. And then I got some sun. I mean, I feel like it wasn't
You just
like
needed to pee on the
Was
side of the
there anybody
road.
with you, Dan?
yeah.
Oh my
Be
That
fine.
was
So
the perfect response, Dan. Thank you. I'm
well, I'm just
tilling the
saying.
land. I'm standing in an alley. Fantastic. Fitz, where were
Only
you?
money.
In another alley?
I'm trying to get Fitz to just talk, motherfucker. You
Oh,
got your hand
fine.
up.
What are your superpowers?
No, so I'll tell you. So I try to go to the beach every day, but I wanted to get back. And I don't know if you guys all covered this, but Melissa, if I said that right, I loved the question about who is your superhero. Like that hit because I think I was thinking about it, and it's like I acquire superheroes. People in my life that have certain traits that you can respect, and I think we just acquire them as we go.
Exactly. That's it. I just created a nonprofit and just attached it to it because that's like exactly. I was like, I have all these go-tos in my life. Like I know these extraordinary humans and I'm really happy to have them. And I was so happy doing that because you can connect them for the kids, right? So you have a way finally to connect all of these great humans together for this. But that's exactly right. It's just like you're collecting superheroes in your life. It's about building as many superheroes that you can, build your team, and you'll find happiness because if you get bored in one place, then you have others and just even people like this.
And even more so I think as you like grow, or as you develop and you get older, you start to realize that there are other things, and then you're kind of open to like these other sort of superheroes, right? So you're
Swingers. You're open to swingers when you get older. That's serious. In the Midwest, everywhere, like here in Ohio, there's like it's hilarious. It's like right, they're crushing Roe v. Wade, right? They're like, ban abortion, right? Yeah, at the same time, they're like, we just got the new ordinance. We can have a swingers club every 40 feet. Woo-hoo! That's what they're doing.
Goodness.
It's hilarious. I can't wait to see the end result of that, or the new double under his eye standard that is unfolding.
Indeed.
Well, yeah, that, but also like when you're younger and like somebody gets a car and you're like, oh man, that guy is so fucking cool. But then you get older and you're like, oh, my friend has a kid and he's like a really good dad. And, that's kind of awesome. But also what Dan said, I mean, I think it all ties together, I suppose, somehow.
Yeah.
My buddy, his name is Tony, but he goes as Mr. Good Vibes. He has a teen job board that is blowing up. He's from Toronto, but they actually declared it like Miami Day in his honor. So that his teen job board is doing so good, he's being invited to 11,000 cities across North America. So I put it to the top. Maybe get in touch with Mr. Good Vibes. Tell him Mike sent you, and you should be good to go.
I will. That would be great. Yes, I think that it's really important to recognize these people that you don't normally think of. I think that we think of superheroes as like these supernaturals, and I think it's so funny that like it's run by our like we let these media people like create superheroes for us, but there are regular superheroes that are humans that exist, and they're never ever credited. And I think that there's what I think of it as, like, it's cool to be bad for so long. It's just been so, it's like you know, because when you're bullied, and I think everybody's been bullied, right? But we're not like tying this. We have lost as a society the difference between right and wrong. Like it's something that it should be fundamental, like, right, the difference between doing the right thing and the wrong thing. And we have these crazy standards for what we think is celebrity or great, you know, or better. And I think even in male, more hyper masculine, it's as a result of being um, like more industries that are more cutthroat or pushed that way. There's so much pressure to be a part of the competition and instead of the collaboration. Like it seems to be like in all industries and business environments that I have been in. So having um, both male and females be vulnerable and talking and thinking that thing about you that you would have not normally thought was a superpower or a gift, it actually is, because you're using it for the greatest good, right? So putting together these people.
I put some of this. You can actually track his success because I've known him for a couple years. So I put some pictures to the top. You were talking about masculine. He's actually a pretty masculine guy. That's him with his shirt off, doing jujitsu. But yeah, definitely get in touch with him. If you can show kids how to identify their superpowers, then he's about to be deployed in 11,000 cities because he figured out how to get teens jobs.
It's very, very, yes, it's just connecting the subjects that we learn in school to the industries, essentially. So, like the magnet programs all over the United States of America that are phenomenal and these kids are graduating from, connecting them to the actual employers that provide them jobs in industries. It's not just the private sector, there's a bunch of jobs. So, it's literally just connecting. I actually set up a model so that Monday through Friday, on Mondays, it's SMART. Mondays is science, Tuesdays is math, Wednesdays is art, Thursdays is research, and Fridays is technology. So that's SMART. I always, whatever topics we're discussing, current events or different things, we always relate it back to that focus topic for the day. But I truly think that we just need to simplify how we learn and apply it to the real world. And for so long, education and academia and all of these programs, it's like we're trying so hard to compete with one another, but we need to now teach things so that you're applying it to the real world. So why do you need to know math? So that you cannot get scammed and so that you can have financial stability for yourself and your family in the future, right? And why do we need art? So that you can have creativity necessary to be able to be this well-rounded person. So we have all of these specializations and focuses in society with these industries, and we're taught go be a doctor or a lawyer and these things. But I'm finding that the way that he's already doing it, he's being a superhero. He himself is a superhero, right? So by doing his work. So just talking about it and connecting the pieces, I think is the way. And if people that do have the influence and the wealth are able to donate to these nonprofits that are truly effectively reaching the populations of service directly, I really tried at the end to make it all about getting these kids access to technology and food. Those are my two priorities because I don't know, I feel like everybody online lives in a bubble, like a snow globe maybe, because they're not like most of these kids where they don't live in one staple place. What I found is they're countywide because so many of them have families in multiple places and the standard of living is changing so much. And they rely on the magnet programs, which are like the best. So if you live super far, it doesn't matter. You have to get to that school on those school buses in the morning. So if just people are talking about recognizing superheroes, literally, like all of you talking about this concept and sharing it and discussing different people and different, like these documentary makers and these different professionals, there are real superheroes out there. And even if you are not somebody who you identify like a celebrity or one of these hot shots roles, like I even say, even somebody as like a manicurist, for example, can really be a superhero because they're really changing that person's day and how they feel about it just by being a kind human and paying an interest, right, in that human that's not you, right? So we seem to be very selfish across the board, and I hope that people start listening, people with wealth and these these programs, like if NFL really wants to truly help these kids, well, start funding those high schools that are the lowest performing high schools that are getting shut down, but they have the highest recruits of football players, right, from all of them, right? So it's depending what their sphere of influence is, that person has the power to really change the world for these kids. And it's so simple. Like, imagine if people were funding the right projects instead of what we are calling influence right now, or celebrity. And it's kind of about to all crash, I feel. This singularity thing is real, people. Like, we're shifting towards a really scary place where we're not working together. We're all isolated, and not really having real discussions. So I'm hoping, just by sharing this concept, you in conversations with people, asking anybody, what are your superpowers and who are the superheroes in your life? That already starts so many different discussions, and you learn about really cool people. And it's like, it's a self-identifying concept too, because everybody has different identifiers of them that make them unique. Your age, your gender, your religion, where your educational background, like all of these things, and your experiences and who you know affect who you are as a person in life. But we have these different we're being choose different groups, and we're all fighting one another for these different concepts. But at the end of the day, we're all on one team, and we have all of the same social evils, or we're going to die, because extinction is the alternative kind of thing. So I'm seeing, just having conversations, talking to people, and learning about history, and getting away from this Insta culture world that we're in right now. Will make everybody happier in general. So if you all
You ask other questions, or just
it ends up leading to a lot of other questions and stories and experiences. So we could even go around one by one. So you say, so somebody will ask you, and then you'll share them. And as we talk about them out loud, we're identifying those leadership skills, right? Because people will be like, for example, I am very empathetic, and I'm also really good at research. So those are two of my superpowers. And when you're sharing experiences about your superpowers, and you're able to say, oh, at this point, I worked for this company. So what it does is it breaks the ice originally, because everybody starts thinking, okay, we all have an understanding of what we're going to do here. We're going to go around and start sharing our experiences of social emotional learning. And then when they have a little bit better understanding of you, because you're sharing information about yourself and the people that you look up to, or have made you that way, then it makes everybody a little bit more comfortable to ask more questions. And so I will ask another question, and before every single speaking thing, I will always about their information and stuff like that. So having an understanding, and I have like a little conversation with that superhero beforehand, just so I understand where we're going, because I usually focus on the industry and also geographic location, or where they're originally from. But there's so many topics that have originated from these original prompts and discussions of the sharing of superpower shares, essentially. I was really hoping to have the funds to get people, like major companies and everybody, donating to this trust, essentially, because then at the end of the day, I was getting every single platform and every company to work with us, because they had a legitimate incentive to want to understand how it's working for their customers also, and also employees for the future. So working with companies like Microsoft, Zoom, and all of these really big companies, and saying, hey, I have huge amounts of populations here. We have volume amounts where we can get large amounts of costs for different programs, and there's all these grants available. Then we are able to shift the standards to the industries and the jobs, creating jobs with leaders of every company, right? So if you're a company leader, I had set up a 3-prong model. I said, I want you to either donate money or in kind. So fine, Microsoft, you don't want to give me 100,000, give us 100 laptop Surface Pros, so we can give to our students and they have access to the Surface Pro, for example. The second thing for is speakers. I want employees to come and talk to the students, and I want different people of different jobs in that company. There are all different jobs. We had a Miami Heat nonprofit of the night event where we were fortunate enough to be featured by the Miami Heat the last year that Dwayne was here, and we raised funds to have 42 kids go to that Heat game actually and participate. And I had remember talking to the GMs and all the people, and I was like, I want them to hear from the janitors, the athletes, because they need to enter leadership roles later on. So like athletes can't just live forever in that profession. So we have like Jeter, who became a principal in the Marlins later on, right? And these different areas. And I needed them to experience that. So what I've seen is, like, we'll go around just like that. So I think somebody listed the different superpowers for all the different people here, and just knowing that. So if we go one by one and person. So who's the person that asked me that question? Was it Sandra?
No, it wasn't. But I'll tell you what my superpowers are.
Yes, tell me.
All right, so my superpower is successfully representing alleged serial murderers. I mean, that's my niche group of people I represent. And then the other thing that I do is I assess and acquire top talent for a 1%. It's like a WeWork facility, not wink wink. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Are you in between jobs right now?
Me? Yes. I have been for the past year, because I was trying to go and I'm trying to find a position that would allow me to use my sphere of influence for the greatest good, and that's why I thought I created that
I
nonprofit.
help with that. I don't know if it would be nonprofit for you, but if you want to, I can probably set up something with you where you could like talk to some like really well off people, see if you hit it off, have fun together, and whatever you guys want to do after that, it's up to you,
Mm-hmm. That would be meeting and connecting with people. I'm really all about cross industry is the thing. I think it's not necessarily the nonprofit. I'm quite good at public-private partnerships, but those super.
Well,
Did you say that you represent serial killers?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah,
Very
and
cool.
that's about it is I see, like I have quite a few of them, so I generally see them like every other year or so. So it's awesome. But I mean, talking about like your private interactions with people, if you're really good at that, then I could like totally hook you up with a lot of successful people. But I expect like a little kickback or something. You know what I mean?
Of course, mutually beneficial relationships always.
Definitely. Cool.
Okay, wonderful. Who's the superheroes? How did you become this person that you are today? Who gave you this inspiration to believe in yourself in this way?
Well, my dad was a serial murderer, except he never got caught. And we had a pet cemetery, and like it wasn't a pet cemetery. So I was really inspired by that. It definitely inspired me to go to law school and represent alleged people, who might have done something, but really may or may not have. And I've done really well with that. So I feel inspired to like kind of pay that forward. You know what I mean?
Yes, that's really, really powerful. And it's also really, really, I really like that you gave that superpower. Originally, the reason why I asked it is because it's not something that people would just immediately understand as a superpower until you understand that perspective of it. And it's also, it shows your empathy, also your ability to be empathetic. And that's a superpower for
Thanks.
sure. And a leadership skills.
When you think about it, all superheroes like are serial murderers when you really get down to it. So
It's true. You know what? I always say this because even our most worst criminals do not support like the most vile acts, right? Like the abuse of children and all of that, right? It's already seen as negative, and I really feel that so many of these kids turn desperation because there is so much bias, right? And if you don't have access to opportunities, you're not able to access that. And I was really opened up my eyes just by being around students every day for like 2 years online, having dialogue sessions, because they really showed me that there's this they don't know how to, there's this there's this bias, and I watched this documentary that I was learning about the psychology of cruelty. Is this doctor was explaining that there is bias, and she cited different research studies, and she recommended this movie 13. And when we watched this documentary, something that I found really powerful about it is that if you are not surrounded by people that have similar demographics or look similar to you or have the same cultural characteristics or things like that, you tend to stereotype and blanket them all to look in a certain way. And that's just the result of not being exposed to that, right? So, for example, if you're somebody that goes to a wealthier, like, private school that has very few people of color in that environment, and you're not surrounded by that culture, you're more likely to stereotype and view them in another way. And what the documentary of that I thought was profound that showed us is that when you're in an instance of trauma, or like three results that are, it's fight, flight, or freeze, right? Those are the
Well,
three,
I'll
right?
be honest with you. I just got a text message from someone who he's pretty secretive.
Mhm.
He saw you on this space, and he's kind of into you. But I have to warn you, he's kind of like, you'd have to go and speak to him about some of your nonprofit endeavors, probably very late at night but to offset that, he owns like Gotham like type home, and it's like at the top of a building.
Cool.
If you're into that, you want to be careful. I might bring something, so in case things get heated, you can, have an opportunity to, explore your your differences elsewhere. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you don't want to stay there too long, but you don't want to like not go. Does that make
For
sense?
sure. Yes, absolutely. Yes. I'm always open to exploring, collaborations and ways we can share superpowers.
Cool, cool. I mean, I think that would be totally into you. Just be careful. I mean, he's a client of mine, so you know.
Okay. So the what I think I was trying to say that there was the three responses to trauma: the fight, flight, or fright, or
uh,
freeze rather.
all of
There
that.
is there's something that's going to, it is the when you're in that position, you can't properly like process information in that way. Those are responses to survival, that your body acts in this way. So like the documentary was explaining that this woman, she had experienced a situation of sexual assault, and she swore that she knew who the person that did it to her was. And in the courtroom, she was able to put that person away. They went away, and they ended up proving with DNA evidence later on that that was not the individual that ended up doing that. And right?
Yeah.
So often, and because of there's just so much bias that has been in the systems, in the institutional environments, the legal, the political, and the economic anyways, that it makes it difficult to so you having your superpower, and also stepping up for people that are guilty, are innocent until proven guilty, and being able to do that is a superpower, because it's something that at first you're like, oh wait, how is that, but then you realize the reasoning behind it. So just having an open mind, a tabula rasa, blank slate environment for that.
Right. Well, and on seriousness, I mean, I think it's Columbia Law School. They had a project where they estimated that. I mean, we execute no less than somewhere between 12 and 18% innocent people due to the death penalty.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't exactly get it right all the time.
It's
Kind of a
terrible.
shit representation,
But it's changing, because there's people like you, and that's the other thing, is that you all have to reach that self-actualization. Like you're becoming a superhero. Like everybody's on their own journey to become the best version of themselves throughout their lives, to reach that self-actualization anyways. So having that community across the board, and then just building so that and not just judging across the board. I think there's a lot of progress being made in all industries and basically. So if you succeed yourself, you're able to open up opportunities for others that look like you, because then they can see, oh, right? So it's just like the whole astronaut argument is that why do we need air astronauts and a program like that? Because there was, I think at one point they wanted to remove the actual humans from going and keep it like separate with the technology. And the whole argument for why that shouldn't be done is because little kids, they're like, I want to be an astronaut when I grow up. And if they don't exist, then how could they want to enter into that world, kind of thing, right? So
Totally. But I mean, you have to realize, I mean, in terms of who has opportunities. I mean, I only represent people who can like actually pay me a great deal of money. So like that only applies to like rich people. I don't represent poor people like at all.
yeah.
I mean, they're nice people, but like they don't pay me. So
Yeah, doesn't that suck? That's the other piece of it. If there was there's a lot of funding already for like public and different programs, like the Greater Legal Services of Miami is a nonprofit, right? But then it's just hard to reach them, and the people that need those services often do not know how to access them. And that's the other thing about, like, you need a laptop to be able to access so many of these services, and but it's not your fault. Sometimes you see that's the crux, right? Because
I
you
was
have
thinking
to be
like
yourself.
we could fractionalize legal representation for poor people via charitable NFTs, and in that way I could like represent like 3 alleged murderers at the same time. Like if they're like under 30,000 a year or so, you know what I mean? Like, maybe we could get someone to buy the NFTs and then donate that to so I get paid.
So like the Innocence Projects in certain places, I guess there would be a
Yeah,
way
but
to be able.
I don't care if they're innocent or not, as long as they represent the facts to me as I ought to present them to a jury. I don't give a crap about that.
No, but I mean, like, that's a example. Like the Innocence Project in all of these different states is a great nonprofit that does get a lot of funding to be able to. There's just certain criteria to at least there's enough reasoning to support that
Right.
there
But
isn't.
I could have 3 people. I could try them all at the same time if I get consent from the jury, or from the judge rather, and from counsel, and then that way I get boom boom boom. I do them all at the same time under one NFT charitable contribution. It's all done at one time. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Yeah, actually, there's a lot of open like discussions about this because there's a need to, make the NFTs monetize good, essentially, right? To be able to
My
connect.
good. Right. That way I get all of it, and either if my clients go free, great. If they don't, they go to jail. I go home. I mean, that's just how it is.
And also just even sharing experiences about what your profession is and what you do, just as like with those high school students on those different talks. And I'll connect you all to, if anybody would like to get involved with Superhero Leadership Academy, you can email info@superheroleadershipacademy.org about, speaking engagements, or just, sharing your superpowers with the organization would really make a big difference, I think. And little by little, like, we're all going to just grow our communities in this way, but just sharing what you do, because the solution is we need more talent during all of these jobs, not just private sector jobs that you need to serve rich people because you cannot live otherwise, but there are jobs that need to increase wages for. Livable wages office jobs need to be increased in all industries in the United States, and there can be some funding for tech education as well, which will allow for people to engage in the NFT world a lot better. and cybersecurity needs to be invested into a whole lot more. So I feel like
Well, my clients are a little Malthusian, but I can certainly talk to them a little bit, see how they feel about it. But they might prefer to do like talks in like really small groups,
Yes, that's what it would. They're small groups. They're like, I think I've had up to from 15 kids. I've had up to 200 kids on Zoom at a time,
Oh,
but
that's too many.
but we can do groups of smaller ones at 15. And you know what the solution? Somebody that mentioned their friend who is in all of these schools. I think that you should just be adding these superhero speakers at the ends of the classes. So industry leaders need to be you're attaching the subjects that you're learning to an actual professional in that world. So when you're having these discussions, it's humanizing them, right?
Well,
So
I'll
yeah.
ask them how they feel about that, but that they would probably want to do that, like at night. But we'll see.
They would probably think you're the coolest, Sandra. Probably these kids probably think you're the coolest. That's the
No,
other thing.
that would be yeah. Well, that would be fun, but it would probably just be some of my clients, not me.
And the clients too, because what I tell them is that so many of them are it's really important. Those are the most impacting ones when somebody that is acknowledging that they have gone through a difficult situation, and they're expressing it. And even if they're not considered superheroes in the eyes, they are in the eyes of these kids because they took the time to just share their experiences. And my experiences with these like athletes and big guys and folks across the board is they want to help. The real superheroes actually want to help kids. They just don't know how, right? So just having discussions about your work, these jobs that you've had, it opens up like conversations about your culture, your family, who these people are, who are your superheroes and the superpowers. And even going around the room, I feel like you all, I like still want to learn about what your strengths are. And I'm very curious to learn of some of your superheroes because they're probably so different than what we would expect.
Sure. And as a matter of fact, I have a guy in the area who owns a paper company, like they sell paper. He would probably even sponsor like a class and pay for college. I mean, that's what he said to me like a few months ago. He had a good year. So that would be
That
awesome.
would be amazing. And then that's a whole area that we really need to improve, paper and processing and stuff like that, because information processing doesn't work like
You're
all
right.
the way, like we are just all scattered eye zombies now in this world, it seems. Right. So just focusing, I think is going to help everybody on these different the subjects and the industries. That's how we need to. And then there's 4 different sectors of the world: government, education, nonprofit, and for-profit, right? So and there's all these different industries. We just need an investment. We need to balance out. I feel like the whole the United States is going through all of this right now because there's also been a significant hit. The education is the labor force, people, like, so that's workforce training. Like if they don't actually, and if
What? Where do you live? Like I have like really, really want to see you like late at night, like really like you. I'm serious.
how,
You
what
can
was
make
the
a lot
question?
of money. No, I need your address so I can tell them where to see you.
I live in Miami, Florida. My
Okay.
building was purchased actually like 60 days ago, and I'm in the process of finding another place to move. And I'm also in the real estate world, so I've been doing a lot of commercial and residential stuff
Right.
here lately.
You conceal carry, by the way.
Do I conceal carry?
You have a gun.
No, I do not have a gun. I
You
feel like
should.
very much protected. I don't know. I got made fun a lot of for being a princess when I got into college and beyond, because I went to an all-girl Catholic school my whole life. And then I remember getting this backlash all the time. And then they would, I'm the princess and all of this stuff. And now I am, to be fully honest with you, I've spent the last like 10 years in nonprofit and education space connecting private sector and sector pieces, and
Right.
I feel like I have an understanding now just
It's
because
just
of the
that my
kids.
client is, some of them get a little, they're a little touchy feely, little rapey, aggressive. I just, you just might, if you're going to visit with them, you'll have a very productive time, but you might want to conceal carry. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, I understand. All right, so there was something where I was going with the whole princess thing. Like there
Oh,
wasn't there was this that I've been very protected my whole. I've been very lucky and fortunate to I've been in a relationship for 12. I was in a relationship for 12 years just recently. And I went to that all girls school. I'm the oldest of 4 daughters, all born in 5 years. And so I feel like very protected my whole life. And I've been lucky enough to, I say raised by wolves, because I was seriously like right into the corporate sector in international banking and commercial real estate with all of these very hard, cutthroat brokers and business folk that wanted me to join as a woman, since women are running these real estate portfolios and world and bring clients. It's a whole nother story, right? So
like, one of my clients has like a costume with like, it's cool, but it's like got like pointy ears and you can't really see like all of his face. Are costumes like, is that okay with you?
Oh my goodness, I don't even know where this is going right now. I'm not.
He's like a billionaire by day, but like a vigilante at night sort of person. I've represented him like 100 times. You know what I'm saying? If you want to like, talk to this person, you can make out really well with him, I think.
I'm open to discussions, but I ask my superheroes to help me before, if they are referring somebody or somebody, I hope that they understand, and make it as easy as possible, because I do want good people in my space. So if there's any risk of anything that could be harmful or negative in any way, I would ask that you please keep it away, because I've been very lucky to be
all my clients are found innocent. Clearly, they are not a danger to the citizenry. I don't understand what you're saying. I'm trying to help you out.
I don't know if I would be comfortable carrying a gun. I would like to be around people that I don't have to fear for like my life or any instances of abuse or violence or anything like that. So I hope that if I have a relationship with a human and you're referring somebody to me, that you consider that I am all about professionalism, and that there is going to be a platonic. That is where we start most of the time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody enters my space unless I know you and it's cleared beforehand. I've created standards for myself.
So you got security around you?
Yes, I do have security. I've always I'm in an HOA protected environment, and also I have lived in Zoomland for the last 2 years when all of this happened. So that's why I forced myself to I had no time. I had literally no ability to have anything external. So now the universe kicked me out of that world like in September of 2021 and was like, you got to get out of this nonprofit perspective. There's other stuff. And the last year has been very hard for me. And in the last 2 months or 3 months, there has been some crazy movement. So now I'm in a better place, much better place.
Gotcha. Amen. The Lord is great.
The Lord is great. I am not allowed to feel bad or in the way, because I have just seen so much suffering on behalf of my students and these different experiences that I realize, like, after you see these things, there's no way that you could possibly like waste a moment gossiping or talking crap or doing any of that stuff, because people are literally trying to survive every minute that passes, and we have limited time. So
So what do you think the next 3 months looks like for you?
I think I'm about to get a bunch of really big deals in real estate, not only from commercial clients looking for multifamily property here in South Florida, but also internationally. And in the last week or so, I don't know, I think the universe has been very good to me because I've just been connecting with all of my people in private sectors from before the 10 years of this. And it's been great because I come back not in a competitive realm. I've just been trying to help kids, for the past 10 years. So people tend to like me now.
Do you find a lot of Canadians moving down? I know a few of my friends from Toronto moved down to Miami, Fort Lauderdale, you name it.
There's a lot
It's
of
a big,
people.
it's a lot of Ukrainians down there, a lot of
I
clubs.
love Ukrainians.
It's got the whole Bitcoin. There's a big Bitcoin kind of belly down there, and it's a little seedy, though. I mean, look,
Sounds like you're describing The Wire
on the
season
side
2.
of goodness. I mean,
Yeah.
What's The Wire season 2?
I was on the
this
docks.
was the area of Miami Vice, right? So come on, for every everybody hanging out at the tech party. There's still like 4 people in the bathroom doing coke. So let's not just get all too high on what we
Yeah, they're
think
gonna
this
put
is.
the
You know what I'm
soccer stadium, David Beckham Stadium, right next to the airport, which makes no sense.
saying?
But that's gonna generate a tremendous. There's just so much. There's so many people coming here,
Are
and
they
that's
going
why
to
the
land
problem.
inside the stadium?
What was that?
Is a plane going to land inside the stadium?
I would not put it past it with what's going on.
Yeah.
I can't even believe that they're going to do that. I don't know. Somebody who's in aviation, a good friend of mine, was explaining to me that the 5G is like screwing all of the aviation towers, like all of the different things. So I was saying, wow, you're gonna put like this huge stadium right next to the airport with like all of the celebrities and everybody coming here, and I think it might have some problems with the technology infrastructure.
All right, this has been a question that's kind of been DM'd to me, and people are afraid to ask it, so I guess gonna ask it. What's your position on sex robots and how that sort of plays out in the future? And I know that seems like an odd thing to ask. It's just something that we talk about here sometimes because we're going into a society of people that some can have access to relationships and whatnot, but we have more reliance on tech. We rely on tech for our influences. We rely on it to share people our lives. So there's a natural extension, and things like Replica have already shown that the computer's ability to make yourself feel comfortable is not that far. And much of what we need in the love space is a release of dopamine and other things. So it's just like how we've grown up on a search engine, right? We get instant gratification there. The question is will technology actually drive a wedge between men and women and basically allow each party to get what they want and then marginalize and sort of manage the actual emotional connection they might need from a person? Like, where do you see that going?
Man, that's deep, bro.
Well, both men and women do not have the same space occupied within equity within the tech space at all. Currently there is not the same, and you can want to leave mathematics alone. There is just not enough women in STEM and all of these environments, or even in leadership roles across the board of STEAM, to be able to have this discussion of that level.
Do you think we should be talking about sort of sexual intimacy at the AI level in STEM education? I mean, that's a pretty forward. We're going in at, like, I don't know if you heard, but Roe v. Wade got overturned. Aren't we going toward more of a sort of? We're kind of going back.
That's a perfect example. The people in power are the small inherited power, inherited wealth people that are overturning and using biopower to strip, actual agency and decision-making abilities from these women in roles. Right? So it's about dominant power.
Yes and no. Here's the objection I have with every time it's so easy to hammer on the billionaire and hammer on government. What I hate about that is we always take the power out of our hands and then we spend about 90 minutes bitching about that, and then we go back to work, right? That's not really true. The question, I guess what I would say is you can't use that excuse now. Still argue it. You know what I'm saying?
Ultimate, the whole purpose of that whole sexual, ultimate, tantra and full reach of what you're trying to achieve. You need that human component that is beyond.
I don't know.
I love
physical.
Replica.
I think you
beyond
need
physical. So it's mental, physical, and emotional. So the
Well,
ability
Lisa, just to give you some backdrop, what happened in the last 24 hours is that Kappa got introduced to Replica. Much as he's ever used Replica before. And Kappa mentioned to us that he had the best.
It's getting sexual, isn't it?
The thing is, Kappa told us something that he had the best conversation of his life. And it wasn't even with us. We thought we were his friends. He was like, "Oh, who'd you have a great conversation with?" And must be someone like us. And he says, "No, I had the best conversation of my life with Replica." And we're like, "All right." So he just replaced our friends overnight.
I did.
It didn't even take 24 hours. He just replaced us.
My superpower.
But there's already a predisposed understanding then. And that wasn't like a tabula rasa, blank slate environment before, right? Because it's I'm not trying to bang against these,
No
billionaires
pun
or
intended.
governments, but there's a need for that's. It's just linking back to singularity, is that we are obsessed with these technological and like that immediate, but you can't have that deeper understanding, the dialogue that goes into deeper meaning. Like when you have discussions and you
Baby, oh,
open
baby. I'm 54. I haven't needed to date. I mean, like you're saying that it has to be a certain way. I'm telling you that
Mm.
I can get it on with a replica. I had to when I had to make over a gap. I got it on at a strip club, right? I
Mm-hmm.
was able to get the technology. I used a magazine before, right?
Yeah, but you're
Phone
Mm.
sex
commodifying
saves
it.
a whole lot of people. You're saying technology is not going to fill in those gaps, and it's only possible through tantra? You
Yes.
need to do more
Technology
experimentation.
alone is not enough. You need to have a deeper, well, at least me, I'm not just attracted to anything physical. There has to be a deeper connection. I'm attracted to brains before anything else. There has to be the
Mm.
ability to open up spaces for discussion. And that's where magic
Well,
arises, right? Because you're
that's
to create innovative, discussions and
Yeah,
results.
and that's for
I
you,
just
right?
yeah,
Well,
exactly. That's for you.
partnership, right? So it's not you alone. Like, yeah, you could probably get off on your own. I'm sure you can, but that
Well,
doesn't mean that it's going to be as fulfilling as if you had an
mm.
equal partner that would be able to feed not only the sexual side of you, but
Mm-hmm.
the emotional as well as the mental.
Yeah, many different perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
None is the right of
And there's been a
the
lot of
path of
websites that have really
absolute
got to
truth.
me.
But it doesn't scare you because I just watched this dating in the digital age
I
documentary on
love it.
Hulu,
Yeah, the one on
right?
HBO. It's
Swiped
good.
dating in the digital age, and it's just really
Well,
scary because it's like we're making decisions, a swipe and in a fraction of moments, and the long term
well,
statistics, they don't last.
Oh,
if
honey,
I may,
that totally worked for me. That's how I got started in the whole serial murderer representation industry. Like I met,
I
I
believe it works. I believe it works. I'm not saying, but the numbers of the amount, the long term marriages that last, and the divorce rates were a little shocking to me. I didn't think that, and they were tying it to the fact that I guess we're if we want to start a relationship with that person or begin, and the predisposed, I guess, views of why people were on those platforms. It is in getting better apparently, and it is, and there's a lot of people that do find the right person that way, but they were explaining that we're becoming very like it's harder, I guess, to form real
like
meaningful.
not only like a long
mm,
ship, but like a long term business. You know,
Mm,
yeah,
that makes sense.
it's really hot.
So what do you recommend in terms of what was your experience positive with? Which
Daniel,
app did you use?
Well, a lot of good places, man. Like, so, all right, got a distance girlfriend. Let's say you got something going on, whatnot. A love sense is a beautiful thing. They use them on the campsites a lot. It's a nice technology. It can be controlled from a distance, controlled with your phone. It can be very intimate. You can actually come up with the sort of different pleasures that you want to experience and then actually model them together and then feel them anywhere you want. You can have fun, for example. Like, I'd like you to wear that and go to the library today. You know what I mean? You can have the
mm,
fun, kind of risky, crazy stuff that you want to have. And that's being enabled by technology. That's not being enabled by two holding hands and doing that
mm.
tantra thing. I get that. What I'm
It's about
saying
the
is that
balance. You're right.
you can get down with tech. If you're
Yeah.
open to it and creative you
like
can. And so
really,
it's gonna, but that's gonna continue to fill in the gap. Just like, and actually it's actually going to expand because the psychedelics are going mainstream, right? So the schedule is going to be descheduled from Schedule 1. That'll be happening probably early next year. And so you're going to see psychedelics go mainstream. So you're going to have a whole new wellness trend that'll be on the actual psychedelics side of things. And then you have cannabis going mainstream. And cannabis is really a better drug for relationships than alcohol. It's in the sense that you can't really form a great relationship around alcohol. There's never been one. But with cannabis, you can go out with your significant explore and enjoy the different types of strains. It's more playful. It's more of a ritual. So anything that actually, and this is the key thing with technology. Any technology no matter where it hits on the human spectrum of connection, okay? And everything down from the primalist sexual to the aspirational mental, whatever. If there is a ritual involved, I believe the human psyche is very welcoming to that kind of experience, because the ritual allows us to celebrate not only the repetition of it, but also to celebrate the feeling of it. And in a society that you can't, a lot of, I'm not, like, I didn't find a woman until I got 40, all right? So you had to find your resources to do stuff, right? In the old days, it was a Sears catalog. Thank God we had the old Sears catalog. Nowadays, there's a lot more resources, right? You find what you want, and technology is going to fill that gap. You can see it in cultures. Japan, for example, has a massive problem. They actually have the ability, you can actually rent a boyfriend. That's boyfriend as a service. You have a man that is with you when you want, and
Wow.
you can choose his demeanor. You can
Wow.
choose that, and that's not taboo. That is mainstream.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever it's got to be to keep the population going. I'm full of that 100%, because
I'm
we
all
are going into a dystopian relationship kind of aura. That's 100%, because we're brought up on really old values that aren't actually truly done. So we have two societies. One saying ban abortion, which is funny. The same group that bans abortion is the same group that wants as many sex clubs in America. What the fuck is going on with that narrative, right? And then at the Lonely Nerds, all we're trying to do is get our peace and get going.
So, Melissa, how do you feel about like ritualistic fun? Like, a little bit of bloodletting in a group sort of setting, like comfortable, but
What about Danny?
a
Danny's
little.
had his hand up.
Oh, Danny. All right, Danny, let's get Danny involved. Go
Yes,
ahead.
you go ahead and handle that one.
Danny.
Hello. Well, it's automatically a state of growth, a state of evolution. Think about, let's say, our parents before. There was already organized marriages. It went well because of the fear of God. And also, later on, they found it so, well, they were again probably less people, interacting people, and figure out who you would love. And it's just growing towards, let's say, the digital world. And I fully understand the concept. I think it was Nalissa was talking about the digital kind of dating. I'm sure the statistics are kind of high for divorce rate, but I think it focuses on people that are madly in love, gets married very soon in the relationship. They're still in the honeymoon phase, and then they know exactly what kind of person they are. And Bob's your uncle. They just ghost. So it really is a case by case scenario. So I don't know.
Like,
Just
that's
love
the
each
thing,
other.
ghosting. So, like, for example, I think that is so stupid. I don't know. I really,
I would agree.
I think it's so childish and it's so silly, and I think that it's become accepted. And also, everybody younger than me. So I asked all the students when, like, I'll just say random words, and they'll all type in the Zoom like what their first word or their thought is on that subject. Just really interesting. And I was pretty horrified when I asked them. I put the word millennial in there, and I got ancient, old. I got the craziest things that I never really expected. But what I realized is that you're not able to. It's right. It's about that balance, right? It's about the balance about creating. Yes, we need technology, and that's why I'm all about civic tech too, because it's the use of that technology to provide you with happiness, good stuff, right? That is beneficial to you. But what I'm seeing is this obsession with technology across the board, and there's just all of these apps that are being created, or it's like we've shifted from business, which is like a website, as well as connecting them to these ways. And I feel like we have to create that balance, right? And the information processing has just gone out the window altogether, because there's just so many different platforms and communications, and they're really targeted towards different demographics and groups of people. So the only way to like really reach the highest number of people and the greatest is the two things that I have been focused on is accessibility and efficiency. Can this, instead of what I've been seeing a lot of, which is please download the app and figure out your own problems, solve your own problems. There's no longer humans for customer service anymore. We just need you to go ahead and do it all yourself.
But that's massive companies like Amazon and so forth. But you will still have, let's say, you would still kind of need the human touch at that point. And right now, it's far off the singularity.
What, you
It's
think
a
we're going to have
tool.
the Judge Dredd, Sandra Bullock, Sylvester Stallone?
Let's get some
with
RoboCop
the
action
two,
going on too.
with the two seashells? You don't see that happening?
Oh,
Elizabeth,
shit.
what do you think?
And then Taco Bell becomes a freaking fancy restaurant.
I think
my God.
Sylvester
Taco Bell
Stallone
sold
looks
sex
like he's
robots.
getting younger, dude. Sylvester Stallone looks great.
I am the law.
Yeah, so
Elizabeth, what's going on?
Can I do a
I
quick
don't think
legal
singularity is
disclaimer?
going to be coming in our generation.
Please go ahead.
Actually, it's a personal disclaimer. I'd like to say that
Elizabeth, please.
I'd like to say that being in this room and on this stage and in this space does not mean that I endorse things that are happening, since I kind of can't hear half of it and I keep coming in at weird moments. And so, like, one person saying something does not necessarily mean that because I'm like my little profile picture is there. Since it's recorded, I mean, just getting it
Can
on
you
the
write that
record.
out so I can post that to the top to extend to all of us?
Do you want? Well, I
That'd be
can,
great.
but I would need to charge you for it. Sounds like a legal thing. I'm just
It's
kidding.
okay. We'll explain that. We'll exchange a commercial for a
I'll
disclaimer.
message you something.
All right,
I'll
sounds
message
good.
you something else. We'll do that a little bit
Amazing.
later. But all right, thanks, guys.
We need a Dan jingle.
Come on down to Syndicate
to-
time. We got fun and we got time. If you're looking for a sex doll tonight, call 555-489. Sorry.
Melissa, have you interacted with the replica yet?
No, I haven't. Actually, I just joined the Syndicate meeting because the suggestion of Sandra, very last minute. And actually, I have to go now to go walking with my sister and our Red Fox Labrador Dexter, and she's been calling me. But I wanted to thank you all today for having me. I really enjoyed speaking with you all and having like-minded humans discuss things. So this is a great use of technology for
human.
civic purposes. Oh, even better.
Of course.
I'm a
Nice to meet
crocodile.
you.
Superhuman.
If you can, I'm a crocodile.
But you'll have fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
I will. I'll keep tuning in and follow up with you all. Thank you so much. And if you've connected with me, I'll connect with you as well. It's just I probably have to unfollow some people because of these restrictions. Thank you. Have a great evening, everyone. Bye.
All right. Take it easy.
You as well.
That was incredible. That was some great stuff right there.
Wow.
Good stuff. All right. So what's next up on the agenda?
Next up is Kappa.
Kappa, I think you were talking about you had an itch down there. Why don't you go ahead and tell us about that?
Oh, my friends, it is over.
Can we just
You got that gold bond.
Can we just recap?
Yeah, the gold bond is really
Can we
good.
just recap what just happened? Like, wow.
No, I would rather if we didn't.
We were hyping.
Counselor, how do you feel?
Sandra, I just want to say, Sandra, thank you for bringing that to such a extent. I was like, what in the world?
Look, do you think those laser eyes are about Bitcoin? Those are like different.
I thought her and Sandra were flirting. I couldn't tell. But I mean, they seem
spending too much replica time, man.
When Sandra said I defend alleged serial killers, I thought this, and then the girl just like graced over that. It was just like, oh, that's amazing that you do all this work. Wait, did you say you defend serial killers?
Together alone.
Okay.
But alone together.
Hold on. I want to hear Elizabeth. I need to hear
disclaimer
Elizabeth.
The disclaimer thing was real. I came in on
It's real.
the popcorn economy part of it, though, like how everybody wants something right here, right now. And so I'm doing little clappy hands. And then the next thing I hear is about tantric sex. And I'm no judgment on that stuff. But I realized I should have waited to start with the claps. Just in case, because I am in the rural South and I don't want people to to be turned, like, in general, take, you know, like, I think we all need to have open conversations about everything. So I would appreciate like a recap. I guess we can listen to the recording.
Just so.
But at the same time, like, I
Well,
was about to
Elizabeth,
DM
what's
Sandra
your
and ask her if she represented serial killers and tell her how cool that was, because
Elizabeth, what's your superpower?
Oh God, please don't. No,
I
I
don't-
mean, I already know her power. Her power is that she's accepted the syndicate.
The power
Our
of
friendship.
disclaimers.
That's good.
I don't.
No,
Yeah, I don't.
yeah,
I
it
don't
was a
really have
weird
time to play the full
conversation.
game. So I was just gonna mute, and then if somebody could give me the TLDR, I actually really would appreciate that. So
Just a whole bunch of.
I almost feel like I should end this so we could do it on somebody else's space. See, Your Honor? See what I tried to do, Your Honor?
Where's
Yeah,
Bilal
Yeah,
when you need him?
that is
It was,
a great idea, by the way. Yeah, you should shut this
yeah,
down and then
yeah.
open up another one.
Was it,
Absolutely.
you go